So even for like the main character of a book, like I might discover a way of drawing a small detail on them later on down the line that I'm much happier with. I think, oh, that looks way cooler. I'm going to go back through the artwork and edit it, which is so much more useful.
It's time for Gab and Doodle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gab and Doodle. I'm your host, Mark Hoffman. I'm looking forward to an afternoon of making and chatting, and we have a special guest on today. We have Matt Hunt, who is out of the UK, who has done a variety of different books. I assume lots of folks know the series, the Cat, the Hat. No, the Cat, the Rat, and the Hat. Right? No, I'm getting it wrong. I'm getting it all mixed up in my head. But the Goat, the Stoat, and the Boat. Up High, which is amazingly beautiful, that we're excited to chat with Matt about here. And then he's also done, I believe, two of these Little People Big Dreams books. This one's on King Charles, and I'm interested to sort of find out, because this one obviously is more recent, i.e. the word king involved, so I want to have a chat with him. But today, here's my sketch, just so people have a sense of what I'm sort of looking at. It's a zoo break by a monkey and some other animals, and I will get to that as we go along. In the meantime, let me switch to my face. There we are. Ooh, I'm like underlit big time. So I'm going to let our guest in just a minute, but let me put in the Ask Us Anything in the comments. And so if you have any questions, you throw them in the comments, and we will try to answer as we go along. But let me let our special guest in, and we'll get going. Too much during this whole thing. Oh, I also want to pin that comment. There we go. Should be just a second. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I know that I was trying to think back the other day about how long I have known your work and been a fan of it. And it remind me, I'm getting it mixed up. Is it the Cat, the Rat, and the Hat?
The Cat, the Rat, and the Hat. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I remember, because the challenge is, I remember reading that one to my son when he was younger, but I can't remember what year. Do you know when that
Oh,
one
man. I'm
in
going
my
to
mind?
say maybe, I don't know exactly, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Is it
Does
really?
that sound right?
In my mind, it was like 8. Like my son, in my mind, he's 12, and in my mind, he was like 2 at the time. But obviously, like everything's all scrambled up there, so I don't know. But we've loved your work for so long, and once Up High came out, we were like I'm so excited by this one. Like the cover design in particular, like is so good, and aesthetically, I just love your work. And so when you agreed to be on, I was floored and excited to
Oh, thank you, man. Thank
have you
you.
here. So today we're going to chat, we're going to draw. I know there's a lot of folks, Kidlit folks, that have expressed how excited they are that you're on, that I'm sure are watching and tuning in throughout the day. But even though they know who you are, just in case there is someone here that doesn't, can you give a little sense of who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So I'm a children's book illustrator and author, and I've been doing it for about 10 years, I think. Um, that's pretty much what I've been doing solely, yeah, for the last 10 years. I studied fine art at university, um, came out of uni and worked an office job for a few years, built a portfolio up, was fortunate enough to get some interest, and it's kind of been children's books all the way since then.
Yeah. Did was that intentional to aim towards kids books, or is that just sort of something that made sense after you, like when you were going through school, obviously it was fine art. My guess is you were
Yeah.
doing painting and all sorts of odds and ends. But was there a point at which you decided that you wanted to go into kidlit, or was that something that just sort of naturally evolved?
Yeah, it really was kind of a natural thing. It didn't cross my mind at all, to be honest. Once I graduated, I pictured myself being what you would consider a more traditional artist,
Yeah,
painting canvases and trying to get my work into galleries and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
I just yeah, it's hard to really remember exactly when it became a realistic prospect.
yeah.
I just kind of I think I graduated, and as I was kind of working this office job, I just doodled, and it just kind of developed. And I think that kind of playfulness, and I don't
Now,
really know how to
you,
yeah, it just kind of
were you around kids at the time, or was that just like
no,
aesthetically?
no. I was how old would I have been back then? Maybe in my mid 20s. I didn't have kids at the time. I've got a young son now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really I don't know how it came about. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, I didn't really have an intention when I got out of school to get into kidlit too much, but there was an inkling of it that I can look back and see. But especially if you're
Yeah,
coming to that fine art, like you're thinking like, I'm going to paint, I'm going to be a gallery artist, etc. And then all of a sudden it's like, not only shifting to a commercial aspect, but to like a very young audience. Like, I don't know what your fine art or your gallery art kind of stuff look like, but I cute animals and things of the sort. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
no,
Um,
no. It was actually like totally opposite. I quite like drawing portraits and kind of more realistic kind of style painting and things like that, really. But I'm sure people that know me would probably have noticed back then kind of what
yeah.
that progression looked like. But looking back
The
myself, I was I was more kind of just going with the flow, and
they
it
could
just
see
kind of happened. And
the glimmer in your eye, the little inkling that
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
which direction you're going. So today we're going to draw, we're going to chat, we're going to make, and I don't know, I don't remember if we conversed previously about sort of what, but do you have a sense of what you're going to make today or what you're going to work on?
Well, I thought I'd use this opportunity to just do a bit of still life drawing.
Okay.
It's rare I get the opportunity at the moment to just draw without a brief, and
Yep.
to just play and sketch.
Good.
So that's essentially what I kind of want to do. Yeah, I've gathered here just kind of a big collection of my son's kind of action figures
Wait, is that
and
a
my own
double,
kind of.
was that a double-headed dinosaur?
That's the one. Yeah. So I think I'm just going to kind of set them out on the desk here and just do a bit of still life. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then my wife also tracks material wise. And I know that like you have a variety of materials that you've used over time, but I'm wondering sort of what are we using today for making?
So I'll be kind of using a bit of everything traditional, really. I've got my paints, inks, pastels, and oil pastels all kind of set out, and I'm just going to kind of yeah do what I feel.
Are there brands in particular that you're partial to?
Um, the brands that I'm partial to are whatever's kind of cheap and easy to get hold of. Um, I really don't have kind of a preference with paper and particular paints and things like that. Um, in my book work, really, it all ends up being scanned into Photoshop anyway.
Yep.
So I think that kind of negates the use of any kind of
Like
high quality
yeah,
paints and things like that.
it's
Because it all kind of gets digitized and edited in Photoshop anyway.
are you
So the material,
are you in an area where you can get your hands on good supplies? Like I know you're in the UK, but I don't remember exactly what town you're in.
So many.
But you sort of said whatever you can get your hands on, and I'm thinking like, does that mean you have a good art store nearby, or are you sort of like being scrappy and finding stuff in other
What?
locations?
Yeah, to be fair, we do have a couple of good shops that I can get some good art supplies from. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
But again, it's just one of those things. I'm happy to spend as little as possible and just kind of it. It's what you do with the supplies at the end of
yep.
the day that creates the artwork. I don't think anyone has to kind of go out the way to spend a fortune on art supplies to get into creating illustrations and drawing I think that's especially coming from being a student and having to buy large canvases and spend a fortune on
Yep.
paint and the amount of paint and kind of stuff you get through when you're in art school. You just tend to buy cheap and go for it. That's still what I do now. So
It's funny thinking back to college, or what you would refer to as uni here, but the the amount of like newsprint pads and drawing paper that we went through on a regular basis in drawing rooms, like it was stacks, and
mhm.
you can't return like in U.S. colleges. I don't know if it happens over there, but you can buy a used textbook for classes, and at the end of the semester, end of the term, you go sell it back to them, and so you get your money back or a majority of it back. But like art supplies, that doesn't happen. I can't go back in and like, here's a drawing pad. Yeah, it's got a bunch of my drawings in it, but will you take it back? And so like the amount of money
Mhm.
spent in college is kind of ridiculous on art supplies. So I get it. I get it. So today we're going to draw, we're going to chat, we're going to do all those things. If for some reason you need to hop off at any point, you need to go, don't hesitate to tell me. I want to be appreciative of the time that you can devote to us, and want to be respectful that I know you have lots of things on your plate that you have to tackle outside of this as well. But and then the other thing is it's a conversation, so it can go any direction you want. If we obviously we'll talk shop a little bit and talk business, but we can talk about anything and everything under the
Cool.
sun as we go along. So I do have like one question I got to ask you before we get going, which has been perplexing me for the longest time, and I'm sure there's an answer. Your name is Mathunt. However, on Instagram, it's Mathunt, and I've been trying to
Yeah.
wrap my head around like there's got to be this like insane reason why you dropped the one T. Is there a reason?
No, I think I've had this Instagram account for such a long time. I can't remember why that I would have used that as my handle. It's probably because Mattunt had
Yeah,
gone,
was taken.
honestly. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was hoping it wasn't just like a typo at the time and you didn't notice it.
Nah.
um, I've been like trying to put theories together of like, okay, like it stands for something, or like there's some reason why you dropped that in particular. But it's so funny that, yeah. Oh, someone says it was already taken. So I don't know why that bothered or not bothered me, but it just like I couldn't figure it out. So why don't we switch to our down shoots? We can start talking. We can start making and see where we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. And I have a feed here on my end. It's a little bit delayed, but if I can sort of keep track of people ask questions and things of the sort, and if people have questions, they can throw them in the comments, and we can try to answer accordingly.
Cool.
Let me see if I can get my board there all set up. So tell me a little bit about the start. Like when you went to school for fine art, did you take classes that had some sort of commercial output, like illustration or design classes, or was it a pure sort of fine art education that somehow shifted after school?
Um, so initially, I went to college to study art and design, um, which kind of involved a bit of everything. So graphic design, illustration, life drawing, painting, um, sculpture, all that kind of stuff. And then I went to the university to specialize in fine art, which my practice was generally painting based. Yeah.
And then was that like when I think of, and then bear with me on this, but when I think of sort of the European or old English sort of classical training, I don't necessarily think of sort of a heavy emphasis on sort of commercial output or sort of commercial
No,
training. But was it like single classes that you took? Was it something that, you know, you, as you were going through school, you sort of got a sampling of, or was that something that was more of like there actually were programs that would allow you to do major design work or those kinds of?
no, nothing like that. Unfortunately, it was really kind of solely focused on your own kind of practice, really, and developing your own sense of how you wanted to approach your own practice and your own artwork and how you wanted to develop. And it wasn't much of a kind of, I don't know, business or commercial sense to the.
Yeah. I just think of like when
It
people go,
was,
I went to school in Italy or something. I'm like, okay, so you studied really like classical sort of approach, but I don't know enough about sort of the education standards for that kind of practice over there. So, um, and then, so tell me a little bit about that. Like, obviously, you have the day job and you were sketching and you were doing things on the side, and there was an inkling of it. But there must have been some point where you go, okay, I got to pursue this avenue of illustration or of narrative art, whatever, however
mhm.
you define it. Was there a moment, or was there like what started this road towards Kidlit in particular? Was there a job
Um,
offer? Was there like what sort of hit that?
it really was. I think there was always a sense of narrative in my work. Um, and think I think I was always focused on developing characters, um, um, which is kind of the main thing that kind of drew me into narrative and character based um, drawing, I suppose. And I think it was just a case of having graduated and just kind of seeing what was out there and maybe just stumbling across the kind of world of illustration and the world of children's illustration and just kind of loving how it looked and loving the amazing amounts of creation and the amazing artists and authors and illustrators that kind of came from this world.
Was there
Um,
with like now that you have a kid? How old is your kid?
he's 6.
6. Okay, so you've been through the picture book, or you're maybe still in that picture book stage. But is there,
Yeah.
do you have a different appreciation for it now that you've you sort of been through the consumer side of the picture book range, or is it still? I mean, maybe you're deep in that world right now, but I'm wondering sort of like
Yeah.
your thought process in the sense of doing it for a consumer versus doing it now that you are the consumer.
Yeah. 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 I guess in that sense, I am. I mean, if you're around children's books all day, every day, you really build a sense of what kind of books you love and what kind of books you don't love as much, and the kind of the kind of writing you like to read aloud, and the kind of artwork you like to look at, and um, yeah, you just become more attuned to what you really enjoy, especially when you're reading to a child out loud every night. Um, we kind of do two or three books every night, and we always have done, and it's kind of it really gets you used to the rhythm of picture books and what works in the structure of a picture book, and um, there are kind of really short, concise, bouncy, rhythmic picture books. There are longer, denser, kind of weaving stories, and you kind of just pick up on these things,
I love.
and a kind of, and I think that just kind of naturally bleeds into my work as well. And you just kind of, it's something you pick up on and draw upon as well.
I love your very tactful way of saying picture books that you don't love as much. Uh, the there are some. Are you of the mindset? And the reason why I say that is like there are some picture books that I see and I'm just like I don't get it. And it's
Yeah,
not that they're bad picture books of any sort, but it just like my brain doesn't wrap around how that became a picture book or the choices that were made. But obviously, someone out there likes it, but it's like it's just not my cup of tea, of sorts. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, it's I like the tactful way of saying like I just don't like it as much. And the sort of reading it.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's just kind of not what. Yeah, there's books out there that just aren't your cup of tea, and that's fine. And there are children out there that love those particular books, and that's cool as well. And
Yeah,
there's got to be something out there for everyone. And
we
um,
we use the phrase "I'm not going to yuck your yum" in this house, and it's that like it's your flavor, you like it, that's fine. Like I'm not a guy who
so
enjoys pickles, but if you enjoy pickles, go for it. Um,
that's it exactly. Yeah.
so, talk to me a little bit about sort of the initial sort of impetus of aesthetic, because one of the things that I am so keen on with your work is your line work is so, and I mean this in a very, very, very positive way, is so loose and so like free. Like I don't, I'm someone who I get overly tight in my work, and then I look at your work and I'm like, how do you sort of allow your line or your, like if I look at something like Up High and I go through and I look at some of the like gestural lines, ink lines, some of the coloring and feathering that you do in the hair, or some of the looseness that happens in it, um, is so like pure in a way. Like it feels like you're not getting in your head going, I got to change that line and make it perfect. And I feel like some artists do get caught up in that sort of like perfectionism or um, that overworking because they're trying to achieve something that is like unnatural. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering sort of like, is that a active choice on your part? Is that something that just naturally comes to your hand? Where does that sort of loose, um, sort of almost like it's the equivalent of uh, it's like your sketch is still part of the piece, and if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Um, I think I think my whole practice for as long as I've illustrated, I think, has always been a struggle of it's the battle between keeping that spontaneous kind of looseness that we can all kind of see in our sketchbooks and initial sketches and things like that. Try not to lose it when you get to the final art stages,
Yeah,
and not to overwork yourself and tighten up your sketches. Every time I'm working on a book, I have that struggle, and yeah, I always try and make a conscious effort to keep aspects of the final artwork looser, particularly like you're saying in the line work, and uh, um, um, yeah, it's something that I'm always conscious about. So uh, it, sorry,
no, it's okay.
I'm, I'm, I'm I have an awful ability to do two things at once, and I'm
It's okay.
conscious that I'm drawing a two-headed dinosaur, and
I
I'm just going to pause for a second so I can
where
answer your
where did
questions
you
properly.
where did you get the two-headed dinosaur first of all?
this is something that we picked up for my son while we were on holiday in Spain. I think it was about 2 years ago.
It's it's meant to be like it's not from something, right? It's just meant to be a little weird.
That yeah, I think I think so. I don't think it's from anything.
Yeah, it's not like there's some like cartoon show that has a two-headed dinosaur in it or something of the sort. Um,
No,
one of the things that I think is so good about your work, and I don't mean to like, I'm just gonna make your head grow 20 times during this, is like that idea of knowing when is enough and not overworking a piece, which I think is very common, and I think that's where people get lost oftentimes, where their sketches are better than their finishes. Oftentimes, is because they get into this mindset of like, I'm just going to keep going, and your ability to sort of like get just the right balance is what I think is really what attracts me to your work. And I'm wondering, is that something that was a struggle to get towards, i.e., like, was your work really, especially coming from that fine art background, when you first started illustrating, was it much more about like realism and perfectionism, or the details were the crazy important part, and over time it evolved, or was that something where there was a decision right from the get-go that like, this is the way that I work, I want this sort of loose approach?
yeah, yeah, because that's the illustration that I like to look at is kind of well, I say that I like a whole different kind
Yeah.
of uh, a whole different bunch of illustrators that use all sorts of different kind of media and approaches. But my favorite kind of stuff is stuff that kind of has some kind of solid structure to it, but has that looseness over the top, which is what I try and get through kind of the collage elements to my work, um, but with that kind of line work over the top,
Yeah, I was talking
to
with
kind of give it that bit of looseness and energy.
I was talking with a mentee the other day about Fred Blunt's work. I don't know if you know Fred Blunt's
Yeah, yeah,
stuff, and it's got that same sort of like, the ink work and the line work is really, really like loose and dry brush and has all this character to it, and then underneath is a relatively like crisp color palette that sort of sometimes is a little bit more designy, but the combination of the two is such a smooth fit. And
yeah, yeah. It works so well.
thank
His work
you.
is so energetic and
Yeah.
it's
Like,
got so much motion to it. Yeah.
and so like that, is that like, as you've gone through your career though, do you think that it's become more or less of one or the other? Like, do you think that you've gotten looser as time has gone on? I know I'm trying to force the looseness and I'm getting better,
Yeah,
but it's still a struggle. But I'm wondering, is that something that you're still sort of fighting at this point, or is evolving rather in some
yeah,
way?
it is still something I have to fight with sometimes. Yeah, I know I have to because I think you just you go from if you're working on a picture book, you go from the initial sketch stages, and then it might go through a few revisions, and then you'll eventually get to the final artwork. And by that point, you've lived with that artwork and you've sketched it a few times, and you're naturally going to tighten it up a bit and refine it, and maybe refine it a little too much. And
Yeah.
that's something I'm always trying to be conscious of, um, trying to retain that kind of looseness of those very early sketches. But
Do
yeah,
you,
it's still something I'm working on
do you ever
all
start
the time,
over? Do
really.
you ever start over a piece just because it gets too tight?
Yeah, yeah. As frustrating as that is, I will just kind of
Yeah.
have to do maybe work on a spread um, two or three times if it's a particularly tricky kind of scene, or maybe you're just going to a spread and you're not fully sure how you're going to approach it, but you just kind of dive in and you just kind of think, well, it's not working. Let's cut our losses and just try it and ditch it, and let's just do it again. And that happens quite regularly. Yeah.
So I gotta ask a question then, and this is like and you saying that sometimes it's two or three times. It's rare that I ever go back and start a piece from scratch over, and it's not because I don't want to. It's more so because time, that
Hmm.
time is on my side, or there's a deadline, or whatever it may be. And I'm wondering, how fast do you work that it allows that flexibility, or is it just takes you a long time to get through a book?
I
Like,
don't feel, yeah, I don't feel like I do work that fast. But the the downside to that is, yeah, I'm always kind of up against the deadline,
got
and there are those time pressures there. But if I think, if you're not happy with how a piece is looking, you're not happy. You just kind of have to go back
have you
and
had
redo it and try it again.
have you had to ask for more time on a project?
Oh
Is that
yeah, yeah,
uh,
sure, yeah. Have you?
it's 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 a weird. I was talking with some illustrators the other day, and I think I want to always say that I'm a rule breaker and I like to push the edge, but there are certain things like deadlines that I'm just so like I need to meet the deadline, otherwise I'm a bad person. Kind of
Hmm.
mentality.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
know I know it doesn't make any sense. Like there's no reason why that has to work that way, but I still have that mentality, and so like I rarely miss a deadline, but it also means that at some points probably I sacrifice like a piece is okay, it's passable, but it's not perfect, or it's not not exactly what I envisioned in my head. And so I'm always interested in that, like that juxtaposition of uh, deadline versus um,
Yeah,
like
how kind of satisfied you are with
yeah,
the end product, right?
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's challenging.
that's definitely a challenge I've had a lot of. Yeah, with almost every project, you have to weigh up the work involved, how much time you have to do it, um, and obviously you want to put your best effort and best work into every single page of every book you do. But inevitably there are deadlines. I could
Yeah,
probably work on a book, endlessly and revise it endlessly. But you just kind of do your best with the time frame you have, don't you? And
you hope no one notices the discrepancies, or the things that you had to rush on, or um like even the book I'm working on now, I got two spreads left that I got to work on. It's a longer form, but like I'm definitely to the point where I'm like I may be going a little too fast just to get it done, so I had to slow it down. And luckily, I found out the deadline is like not for another month and a half, so I have plenty of time to get it done. But um, I was in this mindset of just I got to plow through. And now that I know I have that time, I'm like, okay, I can actually take the time to go back and look and like actually make sure everything works okay. But it's still a like I don't want to push too close to that threshold as time comes on. Is it like how long does a book normally take you to make, just in general? Like are we
um,
talking year?
oh man, it varies so much from project to project. Um, I don't know. On average, I think I've worked on projects with uh, what I would probably consider like a tight turnaround of like 3 months, and I've worked on a project that's taken like a year, and another that's taken 2 years. Um, for a variety of reasons, I've worked on projects that have gone past deadlines and they've had to be extended, or there's such a massive difference from project to project. It's hard to say, really.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you're respectful of the publisher and say you're not going, okay, I need more time because I was on vacation the entire time,
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
or wait until the last second and go, I need another month, and they're like, well, we were planning on it coming in today. As long as you're like kind to that, then like most publishers
Oh, sure,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
are
I
keen
mean,
on giving you more time. They want a good
yeah,
product.
it's one of those things. As long as you're as long as you take what you do seriously and you're, you know, it's a profession and you have to act professionally as kind of fun and creative an industry it is. Um, you know, you've got to have that respect for the all the other people that are working on the book that you're working on.
Yeah.
Um, because there are a lot of people involved in, you know, the making of one book.
Is there thinking about, without necessarily naming names, but are there publishers in general that that you've worked with that have been really um, uh, like the most flexible? That, like, I know you worked with some U.S. publishers, you worked with Nosy Crow, et cetera, down the line. But I'm wondering, is there like, is there one in particular, and you don't have to name that name again, that you're like, oh, this is the one where I have a little bit more leeway than others?
Um, yeah, I guess just because I think there are just some publishers that you build up more of a relationship with, um, and you might work with them across a few projects, and you just kind of you build a relationship with them, and it's nice in that sense. Um, that the that you can just kind of chat a bit more openly, I guess,
Yeah. What,
and
like the equivalent of Nosy Crow, how many books have you done with Nosy Crow?
um, how many? Maybe I'm not sure. You know, it might be. Hold on.
And the reason I ask is just like, as you work with a publisher for a long time, they get to know you, you get to know them. And so there's maybe a little bit more trust or a little bit more uh, understanding in those situations of sort of like, if we give him the time, we know we're going to get a good product because
That's
they
it. Yeah, yeah. You can. Yeah, I think I've probably done 7 or 8 books with Nosy Crow.
okay.
Um, and yeah, I love working with them. Yeah, they're awesome, and you know, it's one of those things. It you put you work as professionally and to the deadlines as much as you can, and you work as hard as you can, and be respectful, and you know, you'll build those relationships over time, and yeah, like you said, you build that trust.
Are you like, I know Nosy Crow's in the UK, correct? Like their parent company?
Yeah, um, so the Nosy Crow are UK based, and they have an American arm now.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you like friendly with them? Like, have you gone and visited? Have you gone and like, uh, have they treated you uh, to dinner and those kinds of things, or is it sort of you live far enough away that you don't get a chance to go visit and say hello?
well, so I live in the Midlands, which is kind of a few hours out of London, which is kind of where most of the big publishers are based in the UK. But yeah, I've been down to Nosy Crow a bunch of times, and they're always amazing and really cool. It's always really cool to go down and see them, and it's always nice to go and speak to anyone in person, really, in what we do, because you're sat behind a computer um,
Yeah, so much of the day.
on your own most of the
Yeah.
time. Um, so any chance to go and see a publisher and chat and have a meeting and talk about ideas and anything like that is always really fun. Yeah.
I mean, you since you're doing full time illustrating, I imagine that you're at home nonstop basically, and like you're not out on the town uh, illustrating or whatnot because you have deadlines that you got to meet. But do you get out quite a bit to like see other folks and to
Um,
interact with the art community, or is it something wherein like you're always on deadline. You are a homebody at this point.
Essentially, yeah. I'm always working on book projects and working towards a deadline. So I don't get out that much, as bad as it sounds.
I
So
don't
yeah,
think I don't think it's uncommon. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's just like the amount of people that sit in their studio all day long. There's an illustrator that I work with who like goes on vacation, or not work with, but I chat with, who goes on vacation and brings his work with him on vacation, and that just ugh. Uh,
oh man, yeah.
someone, someone wrote, Big Luke Tattoo wrote, "Did you study under Andrew Woodhead?" Is that
So Big Luke is Luke Thompson, who I studied with at college and university,
oh, okay, okay. Yeah,
and
I,
yeah, we had many a class together. Um, is he watching now? Hello, Luke, if you're
yes,
watching.
yeah, yeah. The
Uh,
the I'm trying to see. Oh, okay. So there's a question here from Teacher Marin who says, "Do you ever work on more than one project at a time? Like, how much of a multitasker? I know that you said that it's hard to chat and work at the same time, or to get the accuracy of that two-headed dinosaur. But are you are you someone that's multitasking? Are you someone that's like always jumping around on a regular basis?
I I am awful at multitasking, but yes, I'm generally working on a few projects at any one time. Yeah.
Like, meaning that you have like one that's in the finished stage, one that's in the sketch stage, one that's in the the rough stage, or is that like, are you
Yeah,
ever?
yeah, sure. Well, you try and kind of line them up like that as best you can, don't you? But
Yeah,
it inevitably you might um, come across a situation where you end up working on kind of final art on two books at once, which is never like ideal. But you just kind of, I think I've just kind of learned to work like that at times.
sort of partition.
Um, yeah, and obviously I just kind of you just put everything you've got working at that time into a priority list, and you just juggle your days that week by kind of what needs doing first and what needs doing second, and dedicate a day to one particular project, and then you might dedicate the next day to another particular project. And yeah, so for instance, I'm working on at the moment a few things, one of which is the final artwork for one project. I'm in the writing stage on another, um, and I'm on kind of the very last stages of another, doing the final art edits on another, um, and in the development stages of another potential project as well. So yeah, kind of a whole bunch of different things going on.
How do you talk to me a little bit about writing? Because I know that you've written quite a few, and I am I've written some, but I still feel like I'm a novice. I still feel like I'm good with story ideas. I'm not good with wordsmithing. Let's put it that way. And I'm wondering, sort of like, because you went to fine art school, and I don't know, like, did you take classes in writing while you were there, or is that something that you had to pick up outside of school and sort of, learn the ropes?
Yeah, no, I haven't taken any kind of formal writing courses or anything like that. I think it just developed alongside the illustrating. Um, I think I've always written in some form or another, um, whether it's just kind of short, silly poems, um, or short stories or things like that. But I never really kind of put my head down and purposefully developed a picture book text or anything like that, until a few years back, when I just it could be because it was always an ambition I guess I was just kind of maybe, yeah, not just kind of not confident enough, or didn't think I had the ability to, but just thought I'd kind of put my ideas out there, and it kind of um worked out well. Yeah. Um, but I think it just goes hand in hand with, you know, when you're sketching and inventing a new character, you're essentially, you're writing that character to a point,
Yeah.
and then you just kind of take it from there. And I'm not, uh, in terms of like the technicalities of being a writer and things like that. That's kind of why it's so amazing to have to work with amazing publishers that will kind of support you and help you develop those ideas. And
Help you edit. They,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Help you edit when you can't spell and things like that, like me. And
Oh, copy editors are our friends. The people that
yeah,
understand.
yeah,
I do not. I am not good with grammar one bit when it comes to that kind of stuff, and to have someone that can actually like understand what I'm trying to say and choose um, the right phrase or the right punctuation to make it that much better is lovely. Um, so, talk to me a little bit about sort of the the choices that you make with your books, because there are slightly different aesthetics in each book, and like
hmm
looking at the Cat, the Rat, and the Hat series. Is there a name to that series? Because you've done what, three of those now?
yeah. I don't know if there's an official name or not. I think just the series maybe.
Yeah, the and the um and but there's an aesthetic to that one wherein um there's a I want to say it's a little bit more sort of like graphic and brighter colors than show up in some of the other stuff. Like it's a little bit more saturated than some of the other books. And then you have something like the Up High, which is has a little bit more of like a sketchbook feel to me than some of the other ones. And then you have the Little People Big Dreams and all these different um, books that you've worked on. Is there a choice that you make going into a book, especially if it's a new book that you haven't worked on? Um, aesthetically, of like how you're going to solve some of the problems.
Yeah, that's kind of the right way. That's a really good way of kind of phrasing it. You are kind of just problem solving, I guess, when you initially start working on a project. It's, I think initially I go just by kind of a gut feeling of how the feeling you get, the vibe you get from the text,
Yeah.
um, and just the feeling and the um, I guess I approach it just based on how do I approach it? It's hard to tell. I think it's just kind of just the vibe of the text and how it reads, and just how then it just develops in your mind from that point. And is it more of a kind of graphic, punchy, bouncy, rhythmic book like The Cat, the Rat, and the Hat? So to me, that kind of feels that text kind of feels more. It's kind of clean and punchy with those kind of bright poppy colours. Um,
I mean, just
and
the rhythm of the cat, the hat, and the bat, and the cat, the rat, and the hat. That sort of like da 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 da. It's got a little like speed to it that needs like you couldn't do that book in gray. There's no way.
yeah, exactly right. So it's kind of, and with Up High, it was much more of a personal project, that kind of made me feel like it needed more texture, a little more looseness, and that also kind of dictates what materials I might use as well. So maybe a project might be a little more inky and washy and slightly looser in that aspect. Another project I might use more paints or pastels or something like that, and then they'll get scanned in, and I might just kind of be a bit more cleaner with the shapes.
So let me ask this question then, because this is a battle that I'm going through, and I'm trying to navigate a little bit. Um, uh, I have switched to doing collage as of recently, and so like within the last couple of years, and I always worry that I start to go down a rabbit hole and I get stuck in it. So like right now it's collage, 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 and there's times when I write a story that I'm like, well, this story doesn't work because I don't know how to do it in collage, or I don't know how to do it with this medium.
Mm.
And so part of it is me thinking I need to stay consistent in my portfolio. And I know that's not necessarily true, that I need to be consistent in what I'm trying to say or how I say it, but not necessarily what medium I use. And I'm wondering sort of the how do you give yourself, how do you mentally give yourself the wiggle room or the license essentially to allow that flexibility? So if you are more washy on one project, or you are more inky on another, or more digital and whatnot, is there any hesitation on your part, or any sort of like barrier that you put in place that goes, oh, aesthetically this is so different, or is that not even an issue altogether?
Yeah, I 100%. I definitely have those same worries at the start of any project. Is like, what what do I what does this text kind of say to me? How is it making me feel? What is it evoking in terms of what materials do I want to use for this project? How do I picture the characters? How do I think I can convey this book with certain materials? How do I want to approach this book versus, okay, what might the publisher be expecting of me?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
they chosen me for this project because they really like a particular book that I've done already and they want me to do something along the same lines? But I might not know that. Um, so I think in that sense, like I said, I start a lot of things just based on how I feel and how I feel I want to naturally approach a project, and then if if I get notes from the publisher saying it's a bit too loose here, it's a bit, we really like this particular illustration you did, and then I kind of take those cues on board and go from there as well. And I think, but yeah, I have those exact same concerns or thoughts with
Yeah.
any project I'm working on. Is what I want to do versus what might be expected of me. Um,
I think that's the hurdle that I run into a lot. And I know it's a false hurdle. It's a hurdle that we put on ourselves as illustrators often, of, what
Definitely, yeah,
they want from me. And, there's this question of, well, did they hire you because of the style, or did they hire you because of the voice, or because of the way that you interpret or whatnot? And I'm always sort of running up against that as time goes on. And I don't know if you had the same thing when you were starting out, that there was a lot of me always asking, where did people find me, or how did they, what piece did you like of mine that made you hire me? And it was that at that time, it was because I thought my portfolio was too inconsistent. And now I'm thinking like, well, I want to be more inconsistent, and how do I navigate those waters without getting into constantly having to ask a publisher, like, can I try this? Can I do this?
yeah,
You okay
yeah,
with and so it's a challenge. But what's funny is like looking at your work, I know that the same thing happens with me, where I look at it and go like, it all looks the same, or it all looks very different. I have these perceptions, and then you ask someone on the outside to, what do they think about it, and they're all like, no, it seems really consistent, or no, that looks like it's got something new, or I put too much pressure on myself in those situations. And uh, having someone from the outside sort of look at it is always really helpful. But it is an interesting challenge to play with. I look at your work, and I'm not to replicate your work, but I've been trying to figure out how to put line into my work more and more. And I just don't know. I try to start it, and then I always fall back on like less and less line, and so I'm in a constant battle in that same way. Are there materials or things that you wanted to try in a book that maybe you need to get permission for to try, or rather like give yourself permission to try?
Oh man, yeah. There's always like approaches and materials that I want to try, but I kind of feel like they're so out of the ordinary from what I would usually be doing that kind of I daren't really.
Like
And I
what?
think like, oh man, I would love to do well, I would love to do a book uh solely traditional media, no, not computer based whatsoever, no digital editing. Um, but I think with something like that I think, I think the computer and Photoshop now is so much part of my practice, and you kind of learn to rely on those things. And I can do a drawing on a piece of paper, and I can make a few mistakes here and there, and it's fine because I know I can scan it in and I can edit it in Photoshop and I can clean it up,
Yeah,
and with it, I can tweak colors and edit colors, and um, I would love to do a book down the line which is totally digital free, purely. I mean, with your practice, is there any digital
there's digital
input at all?
there's digital cleanup. I and mostly the digital cleanup is not like changing colors and whatnot. It's gonna sound stupid, but it's to get rid of like little bits of glue or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know cat hairs that get stuck in things, and it's not glamorous photoshopping. It's like, oh, there's a little smudge that I just need to clean up. But it's still, I have that same battle of like, I totally get the idea of wanting to somehow make it like a pure process as much
yeah.
as
And I think on the other hand, I would love to do a book someday which is super clean and graphic and 100% digital. And but I think this is one of the things we as creatives probably are always battling with is, you know, if you're creatively minded, you want to try different things, you want to experiment all the time, and it's exciting to try new materials, different kind of paints, different pens. It's exciting to just go outside of your own box sometimes and try something different. Um, but yeah, you do get afraid, you know, do I need to ask permission to do that? Can
yeah.
I can I really use this approach in an actual project that I'm working on with publishers? And but I think you just kind of you slowly push the boundaries a bit and try new things and just see if anyone questions it. That's kind of what I do a lot of the time.
Well, the
See
other
if there's any pushback on it, and if there isn't, then maybe they're cool with it, and I'll just carry on. And
just you said okay, I'm going with it at this point. You didn't.
yeah, yeah,
That, that's a red light or a green light rather. One of the things that I think is sort of harkens to this too is just that idea of like, or plays around with the same sort of concept, is the challenge that I have right now also, and I don't know if this makes sense, is sometimes I want to do things I just don't know how to do yet. Like I don't know how to implement. And so like I fall back on what's easy and what's comfortable. And so like if I go to a publisher and say, hey, you know what? I want to do this book, but I want to do it all in assemblage, like found wood objects. I go, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's so scary to approach in that manner, and to give that sort of like, uh, I guess, recognition to the fact that you don't know the direction it's actually going, because we're built to sort of appease a publisher and to make sure they have confidence in us, even if we don't.
exactly, yeah.
So I want to shift gear a little bit and just get away from sort of art making and sort of talk life in general. And so I know that you're out. You said you're 2 hours outside of London. Are you out in an area that's like woodsy and like I know some towns in England and whatnot, but don't quote me on where any of them are. Like I couldn't tell you where London is versus Manchester, or any of that stuff. But are you in a location that's more like outdoorsy or?
No, not at all. No, unfortunately. So I'm in kind of a large town, kind of. So I'm up in the Midlands near Birmingham, Birmingham, Coventry kind of area, which is all mainly kind of built up towns and cities, basically. As much as I'd love to be in a woodland somewhere in a cabin, um, where where are you based?
I'm in New Hampshire, so I'm sort of we're not far from Boston, if you know where Boston is in the U.S.
Okay.
or East Coast. We do have some woods and stuff around us, but the reason I asked that in particular is just like how much of a when you said that you worked in your studio quite often, like do you have a good art community around? Are you able to, you know, can you get out and see folks that are in our community, or are you like really holed up in the middle of nowhere kind of situation? So it sounds like you have good access to things, at least, without, whether it's access to trees is a different story, but access nonetheless. Um,
Um, yeah, I mean, in in the town I live, there isn't much of a creative art scene as such. Um, I mean, I could definitely travel maybe, 45 minutes an hour into Birmingham, which is kind of our nearest city,
yeah,
which, there is a great creative scene there. Um, but yeah, I think, I'm in the UK as opposed to the US where we're a lot more tightly packed in here. So I think you don't have to travel too far to find things. Um,
that is okay. So I gotta ask a question, and I don't know if this makes any sense, but we watch a lot of like British shows and things of the sort on this end, and there's all these different accents from different regions. But
yeah.
I can't fathom, like, I know that England is bigger than what I think it is because the globe or like maps don't necessarily, but it always surprises me how wildly different the accents are for how close people are in England. And then it seems to me like, you go over a city or like, go to the next town and everybody has a different accent or a slightly different accent. And I know we have states and like each state has its own accent around me, but it always feels like it's such a shorter distance in the UK versus what we have here. But is that something like you're so used to it, like you just know, like, oh, this person's
Um,
location because of this slight variation?
I guess so. Yeah. I don't think it, I think, like you said, we just kind of, I think because we used it, we've grown up with it. I think yeah, you are right. Yeah. So, you can drive an hour in any direction and kind of find a different accent. Um, like you're saying, quite wildly different accents as well.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's just down to just the long history and heritage of our countries, and
It's fascinating to me the like the variety that comes out of it of such a sort of, as you said, a tightly packed environment. And I can't pick up on all of it. Like the equivalent of we just watched. This is gonna like either be a good thing when I say this, and you're gonna go like, "Cool, I watched that too," or you're gonna go, "How shameful." But we just watched Love Is Blind UK,
I'm sure. Okay, I'm familiar. I haven't watched it, but I'm familiar.
Yeah, yeah. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
I
Um,
won't just.
yeah, but like some of the differences of accents there, I was like, aren't they all in the same town basically, or aren't they so close? And like, I know they are, but it's still, or like they're relatively close, but the variety always floored me, and so it's one of those things where I just like I haven't been fully able to wrap my head around it, and so I have to ask that question. I know it's probably like very arrogant of me to be like, your country's weird, and
No,
I
I
don't
think
get
it's
it.
really it's interesting. Yeah, I think it's just something I don't appreciate as much just because we're used to it. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. It is kind of weird. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, I imagine that the same aspect for like where we live, like the Boston accent versus the Texas accent versus the California
Hmm.
accent, it's the same thing. But um, I just it's one of those things where like because we've been watching so many shows that are UK based, I picked up on it more of trying to like, wow, I'm trying to pick out where this person's from. Um, now, are there other activities you like to do outside of the art world? Are you like uh, a avid hobbyist of some sort?
Um, what do I like to do? Um,
Oh no.
I'm not sure. I do. I think a lot of my time outside of illustrating and working on books and things is just spent kind of just being a dad and
Yeah.
um, spending time with my family and like I don't know. I like a lot of kind of just your average kind of things like going to the cinema and I kind of like photography. I've got a few cameras. I like taking pictures.
Do you have a little boy or a little girl?
I have a boy, Maxwell. He's 6.
Maxwell. Okay. I love are you this is a weird question no matter how I say it. Are you a sporty dad?
Um,
Is your kid sporty?
no, not so much. I mean, he's active. He loves
Yeah.
swimming. Um, we don't, we don't kind of play that much sports really. We love to walk and swim, and we've just spent, so it's the summer holidays here in the UK. So the kids are off school for 6 weeks.
Okay.
Um, and we've been on a few camping trips, and we kind of love doing that. Um, so we're kind of active in that sense, yeah.
It's
What
one of
about
those
you? Are you a kind of sporty dad or?
oh no. I very quickly shot that down. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have an uncle who was an art teacher in high school, and he was not very sporty, and I'm not very sporty, and I didn't know if that's just like purely an arty thing of like, because we spend so much time in studio that we're not out there like at a baseball game or a football game or whatever.
Yeah, I think there might be something in that, possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
But wait, do you watch soccer though, or football rather?
No, no, I don't.
Ah, okay, okay.
Do
That
you watch any sports at all or?
no,
No,
I,
I
I'm
don't.
I'm a fair weather fan when it comes to like the World Series. Maybe I'll watch if my team is in it, like the local team.
Yeah.
But I could care less, honestly. Like it is not the star of my life. But I just it's I think it's just an artist mentality. So tell me a little bit about sort of growing up as a wee one. Did you have a artsy family? Did you have people that sort of supported what you did, or was it sort of you were the rebel who decided to go to art school?
Um, my family weren't particularly creative or arty, I guess. I think when what my brother could definitely draw and paint. Um, he's creative in a sense, I guess. He's kind of in so he does kind of um construction and installations and building and that kind of thing. Um, and in that sense, he's super creative. So he's kind of using his hands and he's making things and he's building and Um, and I guess I just kind of went in this direction. And but yeah, my mum was always supportive. Yeah, yeah. Fortunately.
Were you a avid reader when you were little, thinking about sort of like the picture book world? Um,
Um,
like, did you have access to a lot of books when you were young?
yeah, I think so. I was like massively into comic books growing up. Um, and I remember I had a monthly subscription to um, Spider-Man comics, and I think I had another one for Batman maybe. Oh no, X-Men was the big one. Um,
Uh, wait,
so
wait.
I think that kind of played massively as well into kind of why I wanted to go into drawing, and just from the love of the comic book artwork was like big when I was that young. Yeah,
What year were you born?
88.
88. Okay. I'm trying to, when you say X-Men, I'm trying to like place, like there were certain eras of X-Men that were bigger than others, and I'm trying to place like which era of X-Men you were into. So you must have been in like the like mid 90s. Uh,
So I've still got all my comic books from when I was younger, and I think they were from around 2000 to yeah, so early 2000s.
oh,
Um, and they were all Essential X-Men. Does that ring a bell? Um,
I that
oh,
was after my time. Like I was the 90s era
okay.
kid, and so like I know some of the comics of that time frame, but not all of them. Not enough to be able to say like, oh yes, I know that exact uh, reference or that exact comic that you're talking about. But um, did you watch the cartoon then? The X-Men cartoon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was around that time that the first X-Men film came out. Um,
Oh, yeah, okay.
which I remember being so super excited for. Um, and then the Spider-Man films and the Raimi Spider-Man films and things like that. So yeah, that was massive for me back then. Yeah.
Are you at a point where like you can start to share some of that with your son now, or is he still a little too young to partake in sort of comic book stuff?
No, he's definitely getting towards that age now. Saying that, yeah, it might be a good idea to get those comic books out because he's he's never really seen them. They're kind of in a box in the loft, so it might be quite cool to get them out and show him this, yeah, the collection I've got. But he's so he's we've always kind of read picture books to him, but now he's kind of graduating into slightly older books. So like chapter books, not quite chapter books, but there's like a series of books by Mo Willems called Elephant and Piggy books,
Oh yes, I know the ones.
which we love them. Man. They're so good. And they kind of almost have that comic like they're not drawn in panels necessarily, but they have that kind of. It's almost like each page is a panel, and you flip as they're kind of really kind of tightly written and kind of really funny. Um, and then he was quite into the Dogman books at one point. Um, when the film came out a little while back, we got a few of the Dogman books from the library, and which are kind of drawn like in panels like comic books.
Yeah. Have you
Um,
have you done the first Cat in Space books?
no, we haven't.
Oh, you got to read those.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah,
That's do you know those books? The
yes, yes.
Sean Mac Barnett ones.
That's the
Uh,
one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think if he likes those other ones, especially like how silly they are, definitely get your hands on a First Cat in Space book because they're probably even more silly in a way,
Oh,
and
awesome.
totally worth. My son and wife, I mean, uh, myself included, but my son and wife definitely got into them quite heavily during the pandemic, and they were well loved. All of that series, so get your hands on that one if you can. The other, I forget, like there's one other one that I was thinking of that might be really good for that age range, but um, definitely get your hands on that one if you can.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sean Harris and Matt Barnett. I've followed them for ages online, and they're just awesome. Yeah.
Sean Harris is one of those people who like I always use as a reference point of someone who like each book is slightly different, not slightly, sometimes drastically different, but it's his approach. Like if you know, like some of the books that he works on now are very like crude,
Pastely and
but you compare it to some of the early books where he was being like a lot more sort of graphic and whatnot, and like
yeah, well I mean that's a really good example of someone who mixes things up with each project.
yeah,
And I I I was looking at his work thinking the exact same thing only recently. I think I got one of his books out from the library, so I was looking at all of his other works, and yeah, like I said, he looks like he kind of goes into a project and just kind of does what he kind of feels will fit that particular project or that particular text. Or and like you said, that some of the way he approaches his books are wildly different, aren't they? And I think that's awesome that he can do that. I think that's an amazing position to be in, an amazing thing to be able to do.
historically, are there artists that you grew up with that or that you like now that you go like, oh man, this person really knew their stuff? Like, you know, the equivalent for me, like Richard Scarry or Scary or however you want to say it,
Hmm.
is amazing because of how weird the stuff was. Like the just why are animals driving around in fruit cars and silliness like that. But I'm wondering, like, did you grow up with enough that you go, oh man, these are the ones that I'm so glad that these are around, or that I have the opportunity to sort of work in an industry with these people.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Who would I say? There's like.
Or a better way to maybe phrase it is, do you have like books from your childhood or that have you added back from your childhood that you would never get rid of?
Um. I don't actually. I don't. Um. No, I don't think. I mean, I can't recall having that many picture books. I mean, I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
Um. But there are definitely some that just stick out in my mind that I remember seeing in the school library. Um. I think what is it? Anthony Brown. He's this incredible author, illustrator, and he's an incredible painter. Um, and a lot of his books have this kind of they're rendered quite realistically, but not quite. There's still a bit of style to it, or it's not quite realistic, but in a painting sense, is done just with that kind of level of skill. And there's this one book he's got. I can't remember what it's called now. It's about a gorilla, and he's kind of the cover is this gorilla flying or swinging across the cover. Um, and that always sticks out in my mind as being one that I saw in my first school library.
Yeah.
As I was kind of rifling through the picture books. And yeah, I mean, I don't have any from when I was young, but there's definitely picture books. Because most of the time I'm going to the library and borrowing a load of picture books that we kind of read with my son. But there are certain ones that I will kind of want to buy and keep. So I've got a copy of
Yeah.
like some Tommy Ungerer books and things like that.
Your
Just like some.
personal library of sorts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
It's like the same thing with the comics. Like my son, there was a point where I wanted to show him those comics, but he had to be old enough that he couldn't destroy the ones that were important to me. And same thing with the picture books. There's a collection that he had, and then I have my collection, which is
Yeah, yeah,
it's not necessarily that he can't look through them, but it is he needs to look through them with supervision when he was young, and eventually all of his came down to mine, anyways. But yeah, there was a threshold there of like you need to prove that you are able to do this and not destroy all of these things. And so they had a separate little space.
that's it exactly. Yeah.
With your career, have you gone out and done a lot of like kid related events?
A few. So I've done a few things like window paintings and things like that for the release of a book. Um, and when A Whale of a Time was released, which is this kind of big poetry anthology,
Yeah.
Me and Lou, who is the person who I worked with on the book, she's the curator of all the poetry in the book. We did the Bath Literary Festival a couple of years ago, which was really fun. So I've done a few little things, but not loads. Is that something you get involved with much?
I've done a few. I'm not big on sort of going out and doing that. Part of the problem is, and I don't know if this is the same thing for you, but unless I've written it, it always feels a little awkward. Um,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
and it's not to say that I'm not like, well, that's actually a bad phrase. I'm just the artist is not a great sentiment because, we do a huge portion of making the book, but for some reason, like, I always feel like events are for the words, not for the images. Um, but I also hear from the illustrator or from the authors that like, well, they can't draw at the events and we can. So like we have this advantageous thing, but it's always sort of an interesting battle in my mind trying to figure out sort of the what events to do and pushing me getting out there socially and trying to advocate for myself like I can come to a book event for you because I don't always feel the most confident in it. But I have done them and they're always rewarding with that, especially with that age audience. Like it's always so fun to be in front of little kids and they treat you like a superstar even if you're not. Um,
Yeah,
it's again, it's that like going back to that idea of like a separate library. There's always this like you have to handle it very delicately as a illustrator so you don't get the kids too riled up or they don't you know you're not fighting an uphill battle to calm them down because you said something silly or whatever it may be. I have a book that I worked on that was called Poop, which always plays well to that audience, but at the same time it can play too well at times and the kids can get a little too excited about
yeah.
matter. Let's put it that way. Um, is
I
there?
think I come at it with pretty much the exact same approach as you. It's like I'm not kind of a natural public kind of speaking guy. So I'm always a little hesitant to do events and things like that. But yeah, that I mean they are rewarding, and I know that I will enjoy doing it if I did. When I do them, um, it's just kind of building yourself up to go out there and do them.
It's funny because like I teach, and so I can speak in front of a huge crowd. I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
I'm so used to speaking to an older audience that speaking to little kids can be a little scary because I worry that I don't this is a bad phrasing, but I worry that I don't dumb it down enough. Like I don't play to the audience and all of a sudden I'm using words that are too big or that I have to go to the kids and be like, okay, this is what that actually means. And I said it, like the equivalent of saying, like, I work with a publisher, and I realize, oh, they don't even know what a publisher is. They just think someone makes,
Okay, yeah.
and so I have to go back and say, like, okay, just so you know, when I say this, this is what I'm actually meaning. And um, so I have that challenge of, just because I work with college age kids, that I have to always sort of backtrack and figure out how can I convey this to a young audience without them being completely lost in the process. Um, and so that all of a sudden gets daunting, and I'm not sure exactly. Um, I don't know the psychology of it, but there is some weird mental block there for me. Um, I mean, I know that a lot of artists have trouble speaking in crowds just because of, again, working in studio constantly.
Yeah, exactly. So, most of the day, it is kind of an isolating work situation, I guess. You are kind of on your own most of the day, and kind of public speaking isn't necessarily a big part of the job.
Yeah,
But it's funny, it's not a big part of the job until you kind of have a book to put out there, and then it is, or at least it can be if you want it to be.
yeah.
Um,
You have to.
so
Yeah.
I've got a, sorry,
Oh, go ahead, please, please.
I, I was, I've got a book coming out in October that I have the chance to go and do some readings and go to some bookshops and do all those kind of things. And as much as I kind of want to, but and don't want to at the same time, but I know I kind of, it's my project. I should go out there and do it, and I know it'll be fun.
The the challenge of, it's funny because it's like, I look at art and I go, to me it's always so challenging, and I know that, like, compared to someone who has to work in a coal mine, it is nothing. Like, our
Yeah,
job, trivial by comparison, but there are those moments where, like, we have to overcome those strange challenges that go along with this career, and, like, public speaking is one of them. One of them is, like, having to deal with, and it sounds dumb, but, like, the sedentary life, sitting around for a majority of our career on our butts working,
hmm
all of that aspect. Um, do you have a crit group that you get out to in the area, or do you have people that you can converse with about some of the artwork that you're doing?
no, not really. Really, the only people I converse with about the artwork are the publishers themselves, I guess, and the editors there at the publishers. But I think, yeah, I mean, part of me would love to work maybe in a shared studio. I think back to my university days and college days where you are spending all day alongside other people who are creating, and it is a really fun environment. You are kind of you're bouncing ideas around, and you can kind of inspire each other, uh, and it's kind of the total opposite when you get to doing it as a career, really, unless you go out of your way to, like I say, work in a shared studio or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, Part of me thinks that would be awesome, but then I've always worked well in my own company under my own steam, really. Um,
Do you,
how about you? What's your kind of aside from the teaching?
aside from the teaching,
What's your working situation
I'm
like?
in my basement. It doesn't sound glamorous at all. I'm in my basement, and it's, I will get online with some other folks that are in the industry and sort of chat, but it is not a, like, I've never, I know people that have the, like, separate studio side of things, and I just don't have the ability in my head to get up and go somewhere else. Um,
Hmm.
like it just seems like it's so much work, and I know it's not. It's literally I'm like walking to a location, but I like the flexibility of just being able to roll downstairs and all of a sudden I'm in my studio. Um, and there was a guy that I knew that had to walk traipse through Brooklyn to get to his studio, and in the snow and all this stuff, and it's like I that is not my cup of tea there either. Like I want to be able to just sort of get up and go in
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Um, but it does mean that I have to rely on online sources for chat of some sort.
yeah. That's probably something I should definitely be looking more into as well. But I mean, I think I would kind of love to have a separate studio space somewhere. I'm sure it would help with the distractions of home. Is that something that you struggle with? Is there like, are you constantly getting distracted at all, or?
That's a great topic of discussion because my wife made a video the other day about sort of distractions at home that we posted on Instagram. And yeah, it's life happens, and the equivalent of the the kind of stuff that we have around here is we have two dogs, two cats, my son, my wife, and there's always something that needs to be done. And so when I get down in studio, sometimes it's hard to get down in studio because there's a lot going on, and having to find that time or to dedicate. So I end up like, especially during deadlines during the school year, there's times where I'm working really late at night because of it. Um, and so like, it's a matter of like, I got to get my son to bed. And then once that's done, then I can focus on what I need to do. And so there were times on a couple of books where I was staying up until like 3 a.m. trying to get stuff done. And it's not always healthy, but um, yeah, I mean, life is life. You gotta deal with it in some shape or form. But um, do you with your like, do you normally work at a certain time of day at this point, or
Yeah,
is
so I mean, generally I'm kind of doing your normal 9 to 5 kind of hours. But yeah, like I mean, it sounds like you have a similar setup to me with the similar life distractions, and that's definitely one of the downsides of working from home is like, you walk through the kitchen to grab a drink and you find yourself emptying the dishwasher
yep, yep,
and tidying up this, and you know the, you always find something else to do as you walk through the house. And but then again, there's kind of the upsides and the downsides to every working situation, isn't there? And I think we've got the flexibility to work late if we want, or to work early if we want, and to have an hour off here or there to do this family thing, or which is just one of the best things about the job as well.
yes, yes. Like the irregular schedule aspect is something that I've always, you have to manage it, and I think this is again one of those like, it's an artist thing that you have to sort of manage it on a regular basis. But that idea of like um, being able to get up at a moment's notice and go tackle something and not feel like the boss is watching you of some sort, I think is such a nice aspect of what we do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I do have the challenge of, I have a regular schedule with the teaching, but again, it's it's not the it is not as bad as it sounds, in the sense of like, it's good to get away and it's good to get out of the studio, but it does mean that I have other responsibilities that pop up where like I might have to have a meeting in the middle of when I'm working, or or I'm at home kind of situation that I have to deal with. But that's
hmm
horrible. It's actually sometimes you need the break, and sometimes I need to get up and move around on a regular basis. So I'm not.
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out. my color palette on this whole thing is all over the place right now. I've been watching all these like the toys and whatnot. Do you have toys of your own, or are these all your kids' toys?
Oh well, yeah, kind of. I do have some, yeah. So I've got just kind of a few kind of little things that I've got dotted around my studio. Um, I've got yeah, I've got like a Woody from Toy Story, and I've got an X-wing, and I've actually got a a Power Rangers watch thing from when this is actually mine when I was a kid. I can't remember how old I would have been when I got this. Maybe 8 or 9, and I've got a really cool X-wing sat on my shelf as well.
Are you wait a second? Are
That
you the age that Power Rangers was like the thing? Like when you were
oh
little?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was probably earlier. Maybe I was around 6 or 7. I think when what Power Rangers like massive, and yeah, this I was big on Power Rangers. Yeah, yeah, when I was really young.
It's one of those ones where like I don't have an understanding of when that sort of came to be and how long that went on. I know there's like 20 different Power Ranger shows, and they all have like there's a dinosaur themed one, and there's a
Yeah.
bird themed one, and there's a like they all have these different themes, but I couldn't tell you when it started or like. What did you have
So
a favorite color?
it I'm gonna guess it would have been the Red Ranger back in the day. Yeah, I think so. This was back when the original series was on. I'm sure it was probably mid 90s, like 94, 5, something like that. Um, and then beyond that, yeah, I kind of I think I grew out of it after that pretty quickly. And
Uh-huh.
then I kind of got this awesome X-wing that I found, which is mine from when I was a kid too. I think I must have got this when I was um, about 11 or 12. Would it have been? I think when Star Wars kind of became really massive again when the prequels came out.
Oh yeah, like 2000, somewhere around there. Where it's
Yeah, yeah.
man, I
So
had
I definitely had a lot of Star Wars merch back then, but I think this is kind of the only thing
that's
that
left.
was kind of left.
Is that was that so that was your toy little, or that's something that you have gotten
No,
since?
yeah, this is the actual one I bought when I had when I was a kid. Yeah, I'm super glad I still got it. I can't remember where it was. Just in my mom's house for years, I think. Um, and I found it a couple of years ago. Um,
Is the wear and tear on it like from you playing with it, or is that an effect they put on the toy itself, where it's got like a
that
little?
is it
Uh,
is kind of yeah, it's got the effects like the burn marks and
yeah,
things like that, and the stickers. Yeah, it's all kind of got this worn effect. It's really cool.
I don't know if I have any. I don't think I do any of the original stars because I grew up in the era of like Return of the Jedi was of my youth, but I
Hmm.
don't have any of those toys. We got rid of so much of like original Transformers and original Star Wars stuff. I know I had them, but they have since moved on in this world to either a trash pit somewhere or some other kid had them for a while as a donation. So um, I wish I still had them. I have a few.
And
I mean,
I think you get to a certain age and you think back to all the cool things you had when you was a kid, and you
oh,
just think, oh man, I wish I still had all that cool stuff now.
I had some pretty awesome toys back in the day that I wish I could get my hands on. And I go to like antique fairs and I'll see some of them at those, but they never register as cool as the ones that I had. Not they're the
Mhm.
exact thing. There's nothing different about them, but it was like for some reason, like maybe it was the scale that in my head, like the toy that I had was that much cooler because I was little and I didn't have some expectation of it being as tiny as it was or as as uh as stupid as it is now. Like there was a show
Yeah.
I don't know if the show will ring a bell, but I used to love the show Mask. I don't know if that rings a bell. Mask. I think it was in the
What?
'80s, so probably before, like early '80s. So it was probably before your time. Um, but it was a show. It was Mobile Airstrike Command. Was the
No, I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, they had vehicles that would change shapes. So it would go
Okay.
from motorcycle to a helicopter, and those kinds of odds and ends. And they seemed so cool in my head, and then I saw them at an antique fair at one point, and I was like, yeah, they're not that good anymore.
Uh,
They don't live up to what I remember.
nah.
I mean, they're still cool, but they're not. They're not. The price that they were asking for was not within the range of what I considered a cool price.
Yeah, yeah, not definitely not cool as
Yeah,
they are in your mind
my mind. Yeah.
from how you imagine they were when you were a kid. Yeah.
Talk to me. I want to go back a little bit too, because I just looked over at the books that we have here. So you've done the Little People Big Dreams books, and you've done a couple of them, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did the Stephen Hawking one first, and then the King
Okay.
Charles one. Yeah.
So I've done one of those back in the day, and um, I still get pretty decent royalties from it because of the series itself. But I'm
Mhm.
wondering, when you first signed up, because one of the things that I had a challenge with that book was the advance that they gave was really low,
Mhm.
like surprisingly low. And I reached out to some people who had done the books, and I said, like, why did you take this? There's a reason why you took this. And some folks wrote back to me and said, like, well, you're gonna make it back on royalties pretty quickly. Um, did you find the same? Like, has it been a good turnaround? Because the the Stephen Hawking one is like, to me, that's a famous one I see all the time. So that must have done well, I assume.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, uh, yeah. Funnily, I think actually you might have messaged me at the time.
I might have actually, yeah.
Um, and I think I said this. I think I probably just kind of said the same thing as you, which was like, yeah, the advance is low, but it's it's a really popular series, so it kind of it might work out in royalties, which they do tend to from my experience of the two anyway. I think I think I think taking the Stephen Hawking's one was just a case of like it it seemed like a really cool popular book series, and it I just think it was just like a you just take the risk, and it was work and a paycheck, I guess, at the end of the day, albeit a small one. But um, I thought, and at the same time, I thought, oh, how, it would be really cool to draw a Stephen Hawking book. And
Was around the time that he passed away? That book? He did that.
no, I think when did he? I think it would have been a fair while. Yeah. Um,
I'm trying. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what year he passed away, but like the equivalent of the King Charles one, it says King Charles. It doesn't say Prince Charles, so that had to have been, relatively close to that, to the change in the monarchy. Um, was that one like a rush job in a way, in the sense of like, well, now that he's king, we got to get this thing out there?
yeah, well, so it was a really tight turnaround for that one because they wanted it um, done in time for the coronation. Um, so it meant just having it. How long did it take? It was 2 or 3 months. I think uh, I was offered it probably 2 or 3 months before it was to be published. Um, so so for me, out of all the books I've done, yeah, that was a really tight turnaround. and it was, yeah, kind of stressful. Uh, definitely, definitely hard work, um, working to that kind of deadline. But yeah, like you said, that yeah, you do get some good royalties from that series.
Have you got
So,
products that have come out of it that your folks have been on? The two? Like I wrote to, I forget what her name is, but she runs the like product design part of it, and they had made some games and stuff like that. Uh,
oh, cool.
and I have a feeling
I,
that yours, like there's an advent calendar they made, and I don't know. I feel like I saw yours in one of the promotions for it, and I don't remember whether it was the first advent calendar or it's the new one this year. But um,
oh, I'm
uh,
not sure. I haven't seen a calendar. I know, a little while back, I think it was last year, possibly this year. I think it might have been last, but here, McDonald's ran um, a Little People Big Dreams Happy Meal. They had a Happy Meal run with the Little People Big Dreams books inside.
I bet you
Um,
thing they're little tiny books.
yeah, so it was just, I think they might have, I can't remember what it was now. Yeah, it was just a tiny version of whether it was kind of a compacted version, or I think they might have squeezed three into one little book or something. I can't remember what it's now, but Stephen Hawking's was one of those books they chose to go into the Happy Meal, which was quite cool.
Did you go out and get it? Did you hunt it down?
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah. We got my son a Happy Meal, and we got the Stephen Hawking book. So yeah.
That's the like I wanted to see all my stuff, and I saw the advent calendar, which I think is actually those same books. Maybe
Oh yeah.
they reproduce because they're little tiny versions of the book. I mean, they're probably about although I don't have a centimeter thing on me, I would probably say about like 10 centimeters tall or something like that. They're not big of any sort, but I think they're the entire book. It's just shrunk down. Um,
Okay. Yeah. That's quite possibly what was in the Happy Meals then. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if my wife is upstairs, maybe she can look at the advent calendar that we have upstairs that they sent me, and see if the Stephen Hawking one or the King Charles is in that. But um, it's it's always fun to see that stuff. Like I've always for years wanted to do like puzzles and things of the sort, and then they made a puzzle that has the character in it. So at least I can say I worked on something that ended up on a puzzle. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
Maria is pretty still. I'm one of the challenges. And I want to hear sort of your thoughts on this because I had a real challenge with this with mine, but they wanted the cover before I had started the work.
Hmm.
You get that same thing where they're like, "We need the cover tomorrow," kind of thing, and I hadn't even figured out what. Like in my case, it was Darwin. I was working on Charles Darwin.
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was going to do aesthetically for Charles Darwin, and yet they're saying we need it to be able to go out there and promote
Yes,
a
that's
battle.
something I really dislike having to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of like, well, aesthetically, I don't know what he's going to look like when he's older. So how am I supposed to get you the little kid version? And so I had to do a study of both of them, sort of very quickly, to make sure I understood exactly what he was going to appear like in the actual finished product. But to me, that was really stressful. That moment, that sort of like we need it tomorrow kind of situation. Um, or we need it yesterday. Actually, was more like it.
Yeah. I think this series of books, just in general, they turn around quite quickly, and I think that's probably something to do with why they want the cover artwork done first, which is something I really hate having to do. I would much rather think about the cover much later on in the process of the book when you've figured out the aesthetic of the book, you've figured out what the characters look like, you you're comfortable with your approach to the artwork, you've got a handle on what you're doing. That's when I kind of like to start thinking about the cover.
I mean,
Um,
that's commonplace in a lot of educational books, just in general. But like the book I'm working on right now, I'm basically done with the book or getting close to it. And I wrote them and I said, "Do you guys want cover sketches?" And they're like, "Oh yeah,
Ah,
we need those," which is lovely because now I've figured out what everything looks like and I found something. I sent them sketches and I changed something in the finish of what I worked on. Um, in a way, like I changed a aesthetic of one little element in it, and to me now that is a cool looking moment that I can put into the cover in some of the design.
yeah,
But I wouldn't have known that early on. I would have been just like, sure, here's what I think it's going to look like. So the delay I think helped in that
yeah.
case.
That's a good point. I'm still editing and changing the way I approach the artwork, even in the later stages of the artwork.
Yeah.
I can be making tweaks to how I'm doing it. So even for like the main character of a book, like I might discover a way of drawing a small detail on them later on down the line that I'm much happier with. I think, oh, that looks way cooler. I'm going to go back through the artwork and edit
Mhm.
it, which is so much more useful when you're working on the cover later on.
I,
Um,
this is a
yeah,
book that I think I'm going to go back and actually look at heavily before sending it off because I was so close to deadlines on other stuff or you know I put in the time but it wasn't I don't want to say that like the other ones I didn't care about, but I'm ahead of the game enough on this one that I can really sit there and go like, okay, let's go back and look and see if there is anything that I want to go back into and actually redo. And it's going to be interesting because I for me at least because I've never been through that process of like having the time to replicate in some sense, and so that you know again that cover aspect plays into that in some sense of like I just don't know um, I just don't know what a book looks like until I'm done. And now that I'm done, I can go back and like fine tune more so than I ever have before. Um,
yeah.
is
I
it?
think that sounds like a really nice position to be in. Is having that having that bit of time at the end to just look over everything you've done instead of having to just send it straight off.
Well, I've seen other
Um,
creators like Caleb Brown, who I love his work. Um, there was a point where he did this poetry book where it was every page had its own poem and each image was slightly different. And at some point, when he was done with it, he took a photo. He laid it out on all these desks at his teaching job, I think, and then he sent or he posted it so you could see all of his images, like everything together in one shot. And I don't naturally have that kind of space in my house to do that, but um, it has a very different aspect than just like you open up a Photoshop file and go, well, that seems to look like the other one, or little tiny
mhm.
images in Photoshop, or like a little thumbnail sheet doesn't have the same effect. So I'm hoping I can sit down and like look at it all in that manner at some point. But yeah, it's rare to hit that kind of deadline enough that I just thought the deadline was like mid September, and they said no, it's not until October. So I'm like, oh, all
Oh,
right,
amazing.
yeah. Well, it got pushed back so many times.
Hmm.
So I 100% know when the deadline was because of stuff they did on their end. Let's put it that way. Um, so talk to me a little bit about sort of what the next projects are for you. Like, are you booked out quite a ways at this point?
Um, I've I've been pretty much um busy from I've been pretty much busy from the start of this year, and I will be till the end of the year. And then I know I've got a couple of I can't remember exactly what I've got on next year. I can think of a couple of things that I've got that I'm signed up to do. But currently, I'm writing and developing another book with Nosy Crow, which is really cool. I've got another one of my own written books coming out in October with Nosy again.
So wait, when you're writing one with Nosy Crow, did you have the idea and pitch them, or did they come to you and say, "What do you have?"
So the books I'm working on now with them came about when I pitched them up high, and then they essentially contracted me for a series of another 3 books to follow that one essentially.
Okay.
So
So
I've got
yeah,
the second coming out this year, and I'm working on the third now for next year.
gotcha. Because there are some folks out there, and like I had a 2 book deal where I had that where it was sort of like I just had to write one with them and figure out what the second book was going to be. But I know there are some people who have been working with publishers for so long that the publisher just reaches out and goes, "What do you have for us?" And that's always floors me that that it's not you having to reach out to them, that they reach out to you instead. But it's also people who have been doing it for so long that they sort of tied to a publisher. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like they've worked with that publisher for a majority of their career. Um, do you have like set times that you set for yourself for writing, in the sense of like
No,
separating that from the visual practice?
writing's like a bit of a funny one. I just if I know I've got so for instance with the one I'm working on now, I knew I had to pitch some ideas to Nosy earlier this year, in order to start developing this book. So my writing was very much just kind of in that very concentrated chunk of a few months leading up to that point. I just kind of jotted and sketched down as many ideas as I could and developed them up into kind of roughly laid out 12 spread kind of picture books. And I just kind of got out as many as I could and just pitched them a whole bunch of different ideas and just kind of had a lot of back and forth with them until we kind of whittled it down to what we thought the best one was. So I kind of, with the writing, I just kind of work in concentrated chunks of a few weeks or months at a time and just bash out as many ideas as I can, and just sit on them for a while and maybe come back to them and develop them a little more. So at kind of any one time, I've always got kind of a handful of ideas on the go.
When you say a 12-page sort of, is it meaning like you did sort of like half of the book so they can sort of see what it looks like, or what do you mean by
Oh,
12?
sorry, 12 spread kind of, well, like
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
spread,
That's a,
sorry.
yeah, I was like, that's half a book. Why would you give them half a book? Okay, that makes a lot more sense in my mind. I was like, you're cutting them short. And then the big climactic moment happens and nothing. I haven't heard out yet. Um, it's do you when you're writing? I mean, I think you mentioned this before, but I want to get clarification. Are you someone who visually writes, i.e., you have to draw first and then write, or like I think you said something along that lines, and I just, or are you someone who sits down and like sits in front of a computer, pulls up a Word document, and just types?
No, it'll always happen kind of visually first. I think most of the time, I've had a couple of ideas that are more concept, and then they kind of start as a concept, and then I kind of think about the text, without any kind of visuals, but that happens rarely. Um, a lot of the time it will happen with just a little quick sketch or a little character that I kind of think, oh, that's cool, and who is this character? What do they do? And sometimes it'll spark an idea. Most of the time it won't, and then you do. Yeah, it's just kind of a lot of experimenting and
Um, did so I'm reading a question here that someone posted. Um, oh, for some reason your feed is blurry. It maybe just give it a minute and it may come back. Um, one of the challenges that I've always had is when I'm writing is sort of getting the cadence or getting the voice of the book and trying to figure out how it's going to sound. And I'm wondering, is there a methodology that you sort of have figured out with your writing style, whether it be visually, whether it be um, uh, purely through text? Is there a method that you go through, like, to figure out sort of the book's sound or when I say sound, like the speed at which the text is written, whether someone sort of sounds like they have an accent or things of that sort, or are you someone who, um, when you write, it's a little bit more sort of free form from that?
Yeah, I think you'd probably say it's more free form. I think a lot of what I do is just is unstructured to a point where it's just a lot of it's just based on my own kind of, I don't know, just how I feel and the drive of your own creativity and um just I think as well I'm kind of okay with my own, well, I don't know, it's really hard to, it's hard to say. I don't feel like I have a process as such. But I feel like I know what my own voice is in terms of writing at this point.
Yeah.
I think I'm somewhat into a way of developing my own voice where I kind of feel like, okay, that this writing feels like me and I feel comfortable with it, and um I think it's exciting and I like how it sounds. But I can't necessarily put a finger on why maybe.
Well, is when you do your writing or when you're making your stories, is it sort of your own, like, I guess it's going to sound maybe a little strange, but is it your own voice that you hear in your head, or is it more of like I oftentimes visualize a character, but that character also speaks a lot like I do, or I sort of act it out in my head in some way. And I'm
Okay,
wondering,
yeah.
like, does that happen for you in that sense of like I I I hear it's almost like a teleplay of some sort that shows up in my brain. And I'm wondering, do you go through that, or is it sort of like it's words and it doesn't really like connect until you have the visual all sort of made of sorts?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think for the most part, yeah, it probably similarly to you. I think I'm writing in my own voice, but something like Up High and the one I've got coming out later this year is also the main character is also a young boy. I think I'm just kind of maybe subconsciously just uh, hearing it in maybe my own son's voice or something like that, because I quite like to write um, kids' speech. It can be really funny, and I think I maybe just kind of imagine the kind of things my son would say, and I kind of feed that into the writing as well, and that inspires a lot of what comes out.
Are you writing for your son now in a way? Like, I know it's a sort of a loaded question, but are you writing books that your son likes or that are like tailored to sort of his um, sense of humor compared to what you had originally?
Um,
If that makes it like the equivalent of like you're guessing what a kid wants when you're like, if you don't have kids and you're writing, you're sort of having to make this leap of faith. But now that you
yeah.
sit down and read stories together, like does that show up more in your actual?
I don't think I'm necessarily writing. I think I'm still writing what I Rob. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think he definitely, having a child has definitely heavily inspired the kinds of stuff I'm drawing and writing for sure. I don't necessarily think like, oh, my sons would really like this
Yeah.
kind of thing, a picture book. I think I'm a bit more stubborn in that sense of like, well, I kind of still kind of draw and write things that I think are cool, but heavily inspired by kind of the things that my son might do or say.
Yeah, you're not leaving them in the dust. You're not going like, screw you, I'm not going to pay attention to you. But
Yeah, yeah,
you're making decisions that are still it's your like it's almost your inner kid that you're writing for versus someone else. Um, like when my son was born and he got into picture books. One of the things that um, sort of influenced our um, or in fact the first book that I wrote was really about a conversation that we had at dinner, and it's sort of like it became a family book in a way versus a purely me uh, coming to the content. But at the same time, you go back and like there's jokes about like a wise sage, and he was like 6 at the time. And I don't think he understood what that meant of someone being like, "My dear boy, I have wisdom for you," kind of situation. He didn't. He wouldn't have wrapped his head around that at that moment. Um, does your partner do art?
No, my partner has over the last kind of year or 2 years set up her own holistic and well-being company, and she does coaching, life coaching and Reiki and holistic treatments and that kind of thing. She worked for a doctor's surgery for the NHS for many years, and kind of left that job to set up her own business, and she does that. Yeah.
So she works from home too.
Yes, she does now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, the two of you are manifesting a homebody situation there. You both get to play by your own or your own what on play by your own tune. You get to choose when you go to work, how long you work.
That's kind of it. Yeah. At the moment, for the time being, anyway. Yeah, that's kind of the setup. Yeah.
Until yeah, there's until the business really grows to a point where you don't have a choice and you have to go in kind of situation. Um, is there with the work um, that you do, is there things that you feel like this is going to be a loaded question, so bear with this as much as you can.
Go for it.
Illustration is fun. Illustration isn't always fun though, right? It can be challenging at times, and I'm wondering, are there aspects of the illustration market or the making process that you wish were different, or that um, you you could change? Like obviously the one that everybody sort of goes to is the pay. It'd be cool if we got paid more. That's an easy
Yeah.
one. But there are other things that I think can be sort of considered in the situation as well. And I'm wondering sort of what are the good things about illustration? What are the bad things that you sort of look at and go like, oh, this could be improved upon?
Hmm.
I mean, maybe there's not a lot.
I think I don't know. It's a funny one because illustrating is, when it becomes a job, it has all those trappings of any kind of normal job, and a lot of the I guess you're turning a hobby into a profession, and like a lot of industries, it just kind of I don't know. Hmm.
I mean, the you saying just the trappings of a job, that totally makes sense to me in the sense of like there's a point in which it's maybe not as fun in general, and so like deadlines not great for me at least, or the pressure of something like that. But
I think the difficult things about things like deadlines, and I guess one of the most difficult things, it always comes from the creative aspect of um, of any artistic endeavor, is the commercial aspect of it, and um, art versus commerce, and that kind of thing is always a struggle and always will be a struggle. And can you fulfill your artistic vision and at the same time sell books? Um,
like, can you not step out?
exactly how you
Yeah,
envisioned it, and are you fulfilled as an artist, um,
yeah,
and be super successful and sell loads of copies at the same time? That's the struggle, and that's the hard thing. But kind of, but you know why those things are the way they are, and if you want to make books that sell, you might have to make certain choices that you wouldn't necessarily make otherwise, and yeah, all that kind of.
yeah, yeah. I get it. That makes sense to me. I mean, the equivalent of the the like one of the things that I am not a huge fan of, and part of it is because I feel like, oh, I know what I'm doing, is the marketing side. I'm always like, I know better than they do kind of situation, but in reality, I don't. In reality, they know, like when they get in there and they start saying, oh, this cover is the better cover, or this is the way that we should go market this book, etc. Um, I tend to think that I'm like, I have my head perfectly screwed on, and this is, they don't know what they're talking about. But I also know at the end of the day, they totally do. And I have to let them do their job. They've been doing it way more than I have, but I think it's like sadly, it's a little bit of like an ego thing that shows up. Of I've been trained in design and whatnot. Like even the book that I worked on, or that I'm working on right now, they sent me some galleys of what they need on the cover, i.e., this is the type, and I immediately said I'm not using that layout of the type. I have a different layout I want to use. And then I worry, like, are they going to be like, well, this there's a reason why this type needs to be laid out this way because of the the sales or whatever it may be. And so there's always that challenge in my mind of, um, I guess, feeling like I should be more important than I am in the situation. Um, does that make any sense when I say that? That like, oh no, he's not there, and I'm all blurry. I just looked up. I'm like, wow, it got real quiet all of a sudden. I know. Here's what I'm gonna do, Matt. If you're listening right now, and it looks like you are, I am going to stop this and make a part one, and then we'll make a part two. And so, because I'm blurry, it should correct that. So everybody that's watching, give us a second. I'm gonna post this, and then I will reopen, and I'll let Matt in. So let me stop this, and we'll be back. So we're back with part two of the evening with Matt Hunt. I'm not sure what happened. We had some sort of fluke that he dropped off. I don't know if his phone ran out or whatnot, but I'm gonna see if I can get him back in. It looked like he was still online, so that gave me hope. Let me see. Okay, Matt, if you were watching now, I'm back up. Invite has been sent. Um, no worries on phone issues. I get it. I get it. But I will see. Oh, there we go. Give it 1 second, and he will pop back in. Let me get my feed up here as well. I will try inviting as well because it seems like maybe that is not working. Oh, I saw it there. Let me try this. M-A-T. If I can get my big old fingers out of the way. There we go. Well, I will draw on more gorilla fingies. Gorilla fingies. Then I gotta do the trash can, which will be down here. Says Matt is invited. Hopefully Matt is there, and hopefully it's not falling apart again. Let's see if I can do this here. There's going to be a trash can that sits down here. There's going to be a cat, and then I got to do the monkey, but the monkey's got to wait. So Matt, I'm wondering if he's just having issues with his phone altogether, but we'll try again. We'll see if this works. There we go. And we're back.
I'm back. Sorry, Mark.
Back. No worries, no worries. I know that it's also late night there, if I remember correctly. Like my guess is, if I do the math, it is 9:17. Is that right?
You're right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I've figured out time zones finally.
Sorry,
Plus
my
I've had,
connection dropped out there.
yeah, no worries. I was talking and all of a sudden I realized, like, man, he's really quiet during this. And then all of a sudden I looked up and you were off the screen. So no worries though. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but it doesn't.
I can't quite remember where I was either.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. We don't need to delve back into those boring topics of yesteryear. I will say that one of the things that I'm sort of excited about with sort of looking at your work in general is I never quite know exactly what to expect with the books that you put out. Like, even like, obviously, like if it's a series, like the cat, the rat in the hat, I get a sense of what's going to happen. Actually, you know what I need to ask you? What is a stout? Stout?
Yeah,
Like a
so it's
weasel?
so
Okay.
it's kind of like I think it's kind of like a ferret kind of
Okay.
thing.
My wife yelled downstairs. It's a weasel, or what we would refer to as a weasel. It's one of those ones where, like, it hit me the other day. I was like, yeah, I read that, and then I didn't connect 100% on what it actually is. I just sort of tried.
Oh, a weasel. I don't think what's the difference between like a weasel and a ferret?
I don't know. I don't know.
Me neither.
My wife knows more nature stuff than I do, so there's probably
Okay.
some like weird, like, its snout is 3 inches shorter or something like that, but I couldn't tell you. There's some fun little, like, I forget, there was some other animal that there was a different name for it in the UK versus the US, and I generally like the UK's version of phrasing for things. Like, I forget who I was talking with that I like the term jumper instead of sweater.
Right,
Jumper,
yeah.
it's so much a nicer term. Like, just the word sweat in something does not appeal to me. So it's always those little things that those little bits of flavor that I like in the in the tellings of those. But shoot, I don't remember what we were talking about. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think I'm sure you were talking about social media and marketing being one of your kind of worst aspects of
Oh, I mean, that is,
the industry for you.
yeah. I mean, I wish that, like, there was. I do wish, and I assume maybe it's the same for you, but I do wish that there was maybe a little less emphasis on having to promote compared to what it used to be. I mean, going back when you first started, I assumed that you were most of the stuff was like social media was around and all that kind of stuff. But when I started in illustration in particular, like I didn't have a website, I didn't have social media, none of that was the way that you showcased your work. And so now it feels like I spend a majority of my time worrying about that aspect of it, and I wish that was not the case. But I understand why. I understand how it is.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
feel
do you
exactly the same. You can understand why it is, but it was definitely not as big of a factor like when I started as it is now.
Yeah. I
And I
didn't.
go through waves of being really active on Instagram, and then I might be, I might not post anything for a couple of weeks or even months on end, and it's just I can't I find it hard to be consistent with that kind of thing and constantly kind of posting things and promoting yourself, and um,
Have
I
you had
just don't enjoy
publishers
doing it either. And
have you had publishers ask you to like be more promotional on your Instagram or things of the sort? Like I did have a publisher at one point put in the contract, like there were certain rules about when we got to the publication of the book, like I need to do so many posts, and my agent shot it down pretty quickly.
oh
Like,
wow, really?
yeah,
I've never had anything like that. No.
no,
Yeah,
good.
I can see it kind of, I can see, you can see why they do it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens more often. It's just kind of, it's all marketing and advertising at the end of the day, isn't it? And I guess they want to sell books.
Unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately they want to sell books. They that's their main goal, but um there's the pure love of it. I mean, there's some social media stuff that I enjoy just because you can be a little silly, or you can, you do get the reward of people liking something you do. And if we didn't have that, you would make something and not know how people like react to it, or there's no,
Hmm.
return on investment. But it's grown to a point where there is some upkeep that has to constantly happen. And
Yeah, it's kind of, it can kind of almost become a job in itself, constantly
yeah,
having to keep up with, do a post at a certain time every day and do a do a reel, and then you know, talk about this project you're working on and then promote this project. And it's kind of, it's crazy to think that just didn't exist.
yeah, yeah. No, it's
It
there were
just
a lot of
wasn't part of the job in the past.
there were a lot of things that were maybe easier. This is the old curmudgeon hour, where it's like
Yeah,
we get to,
exactly. Yeah.
we get to talk about all the things that were better back in the day when these young whippersnappers were not um, in charge of all the things social media. Um, do you are there things that I asked that question about sort of what are the challenges of illustration in particular, but I do want to ask the opposite of that, of like what's your favorite part of the kidlit world? Is there something
Um,
like this is the thing, this is the reason why I do this, of some sort?
yeah, it's got to be just the satisfaction of having a finished product in your hands and thinking, that thing came totally out of your mind, and you wrote this thing or you illustrated this thing. It was just an idea, it was a sketch, and now it's a fully formed book, and it's awesome. It's really cool to be proud of a project and really like how a project turned out, because that might not be always be the case.
Yeah.
But when you are really into a project, or you're really happy with kind of how it's looking, it's really great.
Is there a project that you can look back and say like um, that had the most reward for you? Not necessarily that's the best book of any sort, but a project that you look back and you go like the what I wanted it to be and what it came out to be, the threshold, or the amount of quality that came out of it was higher than I expected, or the the investment of what you put in really sort of paid off in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Up High definitely is one of those projects, um, because it's a bit more of a personal project. It was um, something I pitched to Nosy Crow, and we worked on together, and we were kind of, it's one of those projects where I was kind of really supported, and they really gave me the encouragement to help and helped me develop it, um, and it just looks kind of how I pictured it would look as I was working on it, and I really like how it came out, how the prints turned out, and the format and everything about it. I think I'm really pleased with.
Um, Actually, one of the things that I had a question about that book in particular is the scale of that book. Like, obviously, it's a really tall book by comparison to a majority of the sort of picture books, which tend to be in that sort of like um, I don't know, an A4 format, like
Mm.
proportion, whatnot. And then all of a sudden you have something that needs, I mean, obviously the title Up High, you need something that has that sort of height. But was there a discussion with the publisher in the sense of, uh, like, what can we get away with height wise? And like, is there a cost or like, was there any questions about sort of like production wise, the proportion that you played with, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. So the art director Nia, who I worked with on it, is and Nia's amazing, and she was one of those. She's always been an encouraging voice, and has always kind of supported me for as long as I've worked with Nosy. And I think I kind of had a thought of like, oh wow, wouldn't it be cool if the book was slightly narrower and slightly taller than normal, to just kind of work with that kind of form factor. And I think she literally had the same idea as well, and just emailed me saying, "What do you think to a taller format?" And I was like, "Oh my god, this is just, yeah, perfect."
Yeah. Like, of course. I mean, it sort of wouldn't be the right fit if it wasn't a really tall book in my mind. Like, it needs that height for the, not just for the joke of like Up High, but just as a proportion visually, you need that sort of height on it anyways. Like there was a book that I did that was, the character was really wide, and so then it became a question of like, well, why don't we just make it a wide book, to allow for more flexibility design wise altogether. And so like I feel like the Up High sort of fits into that, no matter what. Like it needs that of sorts. Um,
Yeah, that's cool, and it's just nice to kind of have the opportunity to do something a bit different like that as well, and work outside of your normal boundaries, and it just makes it a bit more exciting and interesting, I guess.
was there any question? And this is a weird like question that may not make a lot of sense right off the bat, but um, one of the things I always hear from librarians is like tall books are an absolute pain to put on the shelf of some sort, just because they're tall, like as simple as that sounds. Was there any discussion in that sense of like, okay, if we make this tall, how tall can we go without necessarily running aground with that audience or with that sort of need?
Yeah, there was definitely I think that was thanks to Nia again. She did the research into kind of how tall we could get away with and still have it fit on a shelf and that kind of thing.
Um, there's a couple of books that I've seen that have that sort of like that same sentiment of like the height makes a big difference in sort of their storytelling. Um, was that something? And again, I don't mean to harp on this to a point where it's like beating a dead horse, but was there discussion in the sense of let's do this before you actually started the sketches, or was that something that you started the sketches and then sort of realized, you know, you got that offer to like go a little taller, and why not? kind of situation.
Yeah, definitely. It did happen. Yeah, as we were kind of in the sketching phase. I think I was probably at the point of um, I think we had the text and we were kind of playing around with the layouts and just kind of getting the rough sketches into place on the layouts and thinking about all those general things and thinking about the format and that's when it came into play.
The with now that you've had that opportunity to play with something that's like, you know, off proportion, let's put it that way, off the standard format, do you think you have more of a excitement for doing something similar as you go on? Like once I got that clearance to do something like that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go and like the next book I'm gonna make is gonna be, 1 inch tall but 20 inches wide, and try to find like the wiggle room or like fight against the system in a way to make the thing even weirder or more ill proportioned. Um,
Yeah,
but
definitely. I think if I had an idea that warranted kind of something cool like that, then yeah, definitely something like really wide or
they would they would not be happy with us if we tried to do that. But
no, exactly. Yeah.
so how much time do you get to actually play and sketch and doodle? I mean, you said that you're sort of constantly working, but do you work in time to actually like experiment, or is that something that you have to like, you know, on a rare occasion you get to play with?
Um. Yeah. It There'll be phases. So I'm in probably a particularly busy period now, working on a few projects. So it's aside from your kind of development that you'll do as you start working on a book, just generally just sketching without any kind of brief or aim is relatively rare at the moment. Um, I I started to go to these life drawing sessions this year that I
Yeah.
hadn't been to for a good few years. I thought I'd try and get back into it, and it's been really fun. We just sit and draw um, with no particular aim other than just looking at something and drawing it. Um,
That's interesting. Like, obviously, you came from that fine art background where, like, maybe that's a majority of your practice was spent, potentially still lives and models and things of the sort, or that was more commonplace. Let's put it that way in sort of that fine art realm. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm starting to say, like, I really want to try experimenting with a little bit more of that sort of um, fine art subject matter. Not necessarily like, oh, I want to go out and paint the most Baroque looking thing, but more so, um, there's part of me that wants to like actually do some landscape painting at some point again and get back into some of the stuff that I was trained in when I was in college. Um, but I'm not sure exactly when and how that's going to happen. Um,
mhm.
there was a company that reached out to me. I need to respond to them potentially, but they reached out to me about doing some travel um, class, like workshop stuff. And one of the one of the things that you can do is sort of like a journalistic or you could actually do landscape painting for a project like that and have people go on the workshop. Um, and there is part of me that goes, I need to get back into that experience of just like, like you said, going back and just looking at versus making up, looking at what I'm actually drawing
Mhm. Mhm.
in a way, because that would help that sort of that industry or give me more opportunities to do that kind of thing. So at some point we'll get back into it. Have you done any teaching ever? Have you like done any workshops or any of that
I
things?
haven't. No. It's actually something I was looking at earlier this year. I was I was really considering kind of applying to a few colleges um, for teaching positions. It's been something that I really might consider seriously getting into. Again, it's been a time thing. I've been busy with projects and it's kind of fallen by the wayside, but it's something I definitely will look into maybe later this year or next year.
I definitely could see. I mean, everybody that I've had on here has so much experience that I could definitely see like a transition. It's a matter of just, is it something that excites people? And if like getting back in a classroom is something that you have interest in, I could definitely see you relaying skills, whether it be on the fine art side or the illustration skills. I know people would love to hear from you and learn from you in some capacity. Um, hell, I would too. I'm like to sit down and have a class by you and many of the people that I've had on here, like to have someone, not just because we sit in here and we talk and we make, but like to have someone sit there and go like, okay, here's how I would approach it, would be amazing. I see there's a couple questions here that I want to make sure I get to that people have, or at least one, which is what are your biggest illustration influences? So looking back at the idea of, you know, your history of art making, and I would even open the door outside of purely illustration. Like who are the influences that got you where you are?
Um, I guess I guess growing up, it was kind of like I was saying earlier. I was really into comic book art growing up,
Huh?
and there were I think there were probably a handful of particular comic book artists that I loved at the time. I think one of them was John Romita Jr.
Yep.
and there's this amazing artist called he does a lot of I have his name on the tip of my tongue. What is it? He does a lot of like kind of superhero stuff, but he's this incredible painter. I'll have to get back to you on it. But
Yeah. I was like, I can try to help you, but I don't think it's going to help because I'm just going to name a bunch of random folks. Um,
I think that was kind of kind of I then kind of went into reading a lot of graphic novels and that kind of thing. I don't think I can necessarily pinpoint particular artists, but I think with picture books, I think when I first got into drawing picture books, it was people like an illustrator called Kevin Waldron, who I absolutely love. And who else? There's an illustrator called Neil Layton,
oh yeah.
who I absolutely love as well. Who else? Mo Willems, I mentioned, who I love his work.
Were you of the era of like Lane Smith and all the like Stinky Cheese Man, and was that the kind of books that you had when you were
I
little?
don't. What would I have been reading when I was little? I remember a lot of Mr. Men books. Are you familiar with Mr. Men in
Uh,
the
like Mistermen, Mr. Men?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so this is kind of definitely look up Mr. Men.
Okay.
So I mean, Mr. Men's kind of an institution. It goes back decades. In the UK. So they're all funny little characters that are kind of, how do I describe it? So there's loads of them, and there's kind of Mr. Happy, Mr. Messy,
Oh,
Mr.
I know
Sad,
those.
Mr.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that's what they were called. I thought,
Mr. Men, yeah,
yeah.
and so you've got Mr. Men and Little Miss.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. I know those. Yes. Classic. Classic.
Yeah, of course, right. So my son got into them kind of last year as well. So we've got the big old collection of Mr. Men books, and they're awesome. I love them.
Um, Yeah, there's I don't even I must have had some of those when I was little. I don't really remember too much of like which ones or anything of the sort, but they became sort of in the US in the 90s, they became sort of a resurgence where you would see it on like t-shirts and things as a like nostalgic sort of element. And so
Yeah,
that's probably around that same time frame that you're talking about where it sort of like they became a thing again. Um, I'm trying to think if there was I never knew that's what they were called. Were Mr. Men. Okay, I'm gonna have to dive into it. I'm gonna have to figure that one out. I'll go back and I'll look. Um, the are there artists today that you look at that are like illustrators in the kidlit market today that you're like, oh, this is the person who I think does really amazing stuff that I mean, obviously there's going to be tons of them, but are there ones that in particular you think that need more recognition?
um, hmm.
You're like, everybody needs to know about this person. They need to be on
I'm
everybody's.
gonna I'm gonna quickly browse my bookshelf here and see if I can pick out any names. Um, there's an illustrator I love called Emma Lewis, and um, there's a particular book called The Museum of Me, which I think is the artwork is just insanely good in.
I feel like
It's so collagey and loose, and it's just beautiful to look at.
do they go by like E.M. Lewis online of some sort?
Uh,
Oh, look at that.
Possibly,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, possibly,
Oh, that,
but yeah, I mean, it's just such beautiful.
that is beautiful. That's the type of book that I love, where it's like it's a little crude. Like there's when I say crude, meaning like a little art brute. Aesthetic
Exactly, yeah, I think that's a great word for it. There's a slight crudeness to it, yeah.
and crudeness in a positive light, not a negative light. But that is sort of like oh, what is that? It's called a museum of me.
The Museum of Me, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you know? Like, I think next month we're having on Mark Majewski. I don't know if you know
Oh,
Mark.
awesome. Yeah.
Um, or I love Naomi or no Nomi Vola is a I'm a huge fan of, or like Maria Deck, where like there's this sort of again art brute like sort of an aesthetic where it looks like they may not know what they're doing, but clearly they do. Um, but
Yeah,
that's
it's sort of like it looks almost like organized chaos
yeah.
in a sense. It's so well curated on the page, but there's such a combination of different textures and shapes,
It's the
but
equivalent.
so well combined.
It's the thing that I'm trying to achieve as much as possible with a lot of my work. Of like, okay, loose can I get? And so, like, even on the sketch that I drew this time, this cat uh, with its dumb legs, I think is so fun. And so then it's like, how can I capture that in a finished thing where I like still have that like it looks a little bit like a third grader or less drew it, where it's
Hmm.
close, but it's not quite right. That's the kind of like vibe I try to go for with my work. But I I appreciate those people that can do that so naturally. And it's not to say that I can't, but to me it feels like they just draw automatically that way and they're not making a conscious decision to aim towards that aesthetic. Whereas in my case, I feel like I'm like trying to force it maybe every once in a while. Um, how did is there one of the questions I like to ask people, and I know this there's not always the exact answer for this from everybody, but how do you know when a piece is working and when it's not? Like, is there a device or something that tells you, oh, this has gone awry?
Um, I think there's certainly. I think I've always got a fairly certain idea of how I want it to look before I go into drawing it. Um, but I think you've got to get a certain way into it before you can really tell whether it's working or not. I think once, I don't know, it can vary so much between different projects and kind of the type of illustrating you're doing at any one time. But um, I think you can just tell kind of as you're getting into the color. And sometimes I'll fight with an illustration a bit and try and make it work and try and work your way around kind of what's not working. But um, I don't know. I think it's just something you develop over time.
Is
Just
there
that sense of okay, I better just either carry on with it and I might turn it around, or let's just give up on this one and start a fresh one.
the students I'm working with right now, I'm working in a class that's called Breakout, and the idea is to think about sort of style and all these other aspects that can be a little bit challenging for students. And I say style because that's written in the description, but I like the word voice better. But with one of those questions is that I asked them in the survey was when you run aground with a piece, do you like to start over, or do you like to see it through and keep pushing through? And I'm excited to see what people say, because I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few that come back and say that they like to see it through, but I have a feeling that a lot of them probably start over, and I don't know which one's better. I think it really depends on the person, but I tend to just like keep going. It's rare for me to throw
Hmm.
it away. That's what that, or to like put it in the trash or what have you. Um, but I know that it needs to happen. It needs to happen every once in a while. Let's put it that way. Um, okay,
Yeah, I
here.
mean, sometimes I think I'll just be working on a piece and I can just sense it tightening up, and I can just sense it just moving further away from what I thought of what I pitched or my intention for it, rather kind of. And I think just starting fresh and not even tracing over the rough or necessarily referring to the rough that much, just trying to do it fresh from your mind with a bit of that energy and spontaneity in it really helps kind
Yeah.
of get out of that rut.
Well, I've sort of come to the conclusion. I told a few folks about this, that I do not want the sketch near me. Um, Meaning, like, if I put the sketch too close, I sit there and like this sketch that I have here, I would be sitting there going like, okay, does that line up perfectly? Does that fit where I want
Exactly. Yeah.
it? Um, Having it off to the side or at a distance, like sort of up away from me where I'm not looking at it constantly, I think actually drastically helps my interpretation of what I need to do with a piece. Um, and getting that sort of like finding the solution of what's the best way to work for me has been like I'm slowly getting there in some sense.
Hmm.
What? Okay, wait. That's a South Park character, right? This is that who that is?
Yeah, I've got this Randy figure.
Oh, Randy. That's right. Okay. Who's the one behind?
So this guy is a character called Morph. Are you familiar with Morph?
No.
So he's from I'm going to say a series from the 70s, I think. A really cool stop motion series called Morph. And he's a little kind of stop motion plasticine guy. Um,
We had a guy
I
named
think,
Mr. Bill that sounds like maybe that's in the same, or like Pokey. Not Pokey. What's his name? Gumby. That was sort of in the
okay,
same range where like it was claymation or something of the sort, and they would squish and stretch and do all the
that's
things.
it. Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. It's just funny. I've never seen that one in particular. Uh,
I'd recommend looking more up on YouTube. It's really cool. I think they recently brought him back, and I think they've made some more recent series of Morph. I've seen a few. They are really cool. I love
like
anything kind of stop motion, and I love Aardman and that kind of thing.
Morph.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will. When I'm done tonight, I will definitely go look that up. There's so many great like shows that I probably miss out on, and so many like what's there's some kid show from the UK that has a really weird character as the like a person in a costume or something. Oh, I'm trying to remember. So we watched a show called Taskmaster. I don't know if you know
Hmm.
the show Taskmaster, and they did some one of the tasks that they had to do involved this character. I can't remember what his name is. I want to say it starts with a B. Um,
It's not it's not
it,
Mr. Blobby, is it?
maybe Mr. Blobby. It's like Bippy or Blobby. It's one. It starts something like that. But I remember him being like sort of terrifying in his design. Like
He's well, Mr. Mr. Blobby is kind of this guy in this kind of big um pink suit with kind of yellow spots. He's kind of this weird blob-like character, and he just kind of his whole thing is kind of running in, causing chaos, being really wild and manic, and kind of running out again, and just kind of saying blobby the whole time.
I'm pretty sure that's probably it. Is it a kids show?
It was I think he originated from like it was like a family, like a Saturday night family show
And okay,
called I think he started on a show called Noel's House Party in the 90s, I'm going to say. I think I remember it from when I was a kid. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like this weird kind of bizarre family kind of character thing.
but like a little haunting in its design, or like in the way that it
Oh
operates.
yeah, you could definitely feel a little creeped out, I think, at his design, yeah.
Okay, that's that's what I remember. Is just like I just remember it being very very weird, and obviously like the show that it was on, they were sort of making fun of it as this like strange character that had been around for a while. So it's got to be the same thing. It's got to be that stuff.
He's got these kind of two massive googly eyes on his head that are constantly kind
Yeah.
of moving as he's running around. So it's kind of, it is totally bizarre, yeah.
I imagine like I know that we probably have something very similar where like there's probably some um, uh, U.S. character where people would be like, that is messed up as well. Um, but that's one that I mean, so is all the what are they called, the Tinky and Blinky and Wink? No,
Oh, the Teletubbies.
Teletubbies. That's what it is. We're like
Oh, shit, yeah.
that's another crazy UK thing that has made its way over here at some point. Um, what kind of are you into reading, into books, into TV, into movies, that kind of stuff, or like as far as uh, media?
Uh, yeah, I do love movies when I can find the opportunity to go to the cinema, and um, if it's something particularly sci-fi or horror-y, then and my wife is not particularly into those kind of things. But if it is something like that, then I'll go with a good friend of mine, my brother-in-law Nathan. He'll go with me to kind of watch that kind of stuff.
So are you watching the new Alien Earth show?
I'm not, but I'm super excited to watch it.
It's pretty like we're I think 3 episodes in. It's pretty good. I like it so far. Like I like the movies and whatnot, but I'm pretty happy with it. So I was afraid that it was going to be maybe a little like too far removed from the rest of the series, but not so much so far. So I highly
From what
recommend
I've read,
it.
it's relatively faithful. I don't know, design wise to the original movies, and
Yeah,
I love the original Alien movie. It's kind of one of my favorite movies.
it's not only is it faithful, but one of the things that's really nice is there's other types of aliens that show up in it that are not necessarily like the what is it called xenomorph,
Hmm.
um, but there is some like other weird critters that show up that are not just the predator. Let's put it that way. Like there's
Oh,
more than
cool.
been done out there. And
It's one
so
of those shows that I'm waiting till they're pretty much all out before I
that
watch it, so I can kind of binge them all at once.
um, have you ever seen? There's a movie. I don't know if you would like this movie or not, but there's a movie called The Vast of Night.
No, I'm not aware.
Oh, you got to see that one. It's a really cool sci-fi, not necessarily horror, but it's a bit of a thriller horror kind of. Not I won't say horror, thriller sci-fi, but for aesthetic purposes, I think everybody should see it because it's aesthetically the way that it's shot and the cinematography and the pacing. For someone who likes storytelling, I think you would really love the sort of the pace that they set for the whole thing is really really good.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. That sounds, yeah, that, I mean, that sounds my kind of thing. That sounds great. Yeah.
yeah, my wife and I, any sort of like sci-fi slash um, uh, uh, time travel movie or show we're in basically.
Oh,
Um,
cool. Yeah.
she's seen almost all of them because when I had deadlines, she would be down or she'd be up in the family room rather watching all of that, and so she's probably seen way more than I have, but still, those are the ones that we like gravitate towards constantly. Of
I,
whatever.
I went to the cinema last week to see, Weapons. I don't know how much
Oh
into
yeah,
kind of like the horror kind of stuff you are,
I did
but
want to because that's the one uh, with the kids who like run out of the school or something, right?
yeah, so the the mystery is kind of they all go missing at the exact same time in the middle of the night, and they're all kids from one particular class at school.
Yeah.
Um, oh, it was awesome, man. It's a really cool movie.
All right. No, I wanted to see that one. The trailer where it's just like all the kids running with their arms up or something of the sort.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? What is this movie? I don't get it, but like totally up our alley to venture forth. So we will partake in that one, I'm sure, especially since you're giving a recommendation there. Um,
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, it was so cool.
are do you are you the type of person like there was a post that someone made a while back that talked about how kidlit folks oftentimes listen and uh, like watch things that are somewhat horrific, i.e., like murder podcasts and things of the sort. Um, and I have the theory that some of it is because we live in this world of everything sort of cute and lovely for the most part in picture books that we need the escape. Um, and I'm wondering, like, outside of the horror sci-fi stuff, do you listen to like podcasts that are a little bit creepy or things of that sort, or um, is it primarily just the movie side that you lean on?
I don't actually. I do listen to podcasts while I'm working, yeah. But they'll actually be kind of like movie podcasts, like, you know, about the making of movies or the movie industry, or there'll be podcasts about, I don't know, like gaming and stuff like that, that I kind of have an interest in, like the making and the craft of, I guess.
Yeah, we my wife and I are big fans of the podcast. How did this get made? Um,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
do you know the one? where
I do, yeah.
they make fun of horrible movies. And I'm trying to remember what the movie we saw this. Oh, the last one we saw was awful. It was really bad. But
But
we found.
anything kind of like that where, sorry, Mark, carry on.
Oh, go ahead, please, please.
And I was just about to say, like, kind of anything like that. So, like, if there's a good YouTube video I can put on in the background while I'm working, and it's kind of a breakdown of how a particular movie was made or how they did, I don't know, how they, like, a really interesting story about how they shot a particular movie or anything like that that breaks down kind of that creative industry. It's just kind of really interesting.
Yeah, that's the I worked in animation for some years, and so I know and I know a few folks that work in the or have worked in the film industry from that I went to school with and stuff like that. And so I've heard stories of sort of how it operates, but it is such a interesting production model for things, and like all the behind the scenes are lovely. We still rent DVDs from the library near us just so we can get the behind the scenes. If it's a really good movie, we will go out of our way to get those DVDs just because of the what are they called, special features or the
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's one thing that's missing with the streaming age, isn't it? It's the DVD extras.
yeah. I mean, some of them like Disney sometimes will have some behind the scenes stuff, but not anywhere near what you get on a DVD generally of some sort.
Hmm.
Or I shouldn't say it's probably not DVDs all that much anymore. It's Blu-rays or it's whatever, but same basic sentiment. Um,
If it's okay, Mark, I'm going to wrap up.
oh yeah, by all
The,
means. Let me give me a second, and I will. I'll do a little switcheroo on my camera back down to my face. Um, there we go. So I can send you off properly. Uh, but I've had a lovely time chatting with you. This has been a good afternoon for me. Hopefully a good evening for you. Um,
it's been really cool, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's been really nice to meet you and talk to you. Yeah,
if you're ever at any of the big events in the States, or do you ever go to Bologna?
I've never been. I would love to go one year.
That's at
I'm
some point.
sure I will.
Yeah, at some point we're planning on going probably in another 4 years, somewhere in there, to go to it because our anniversary is coming up, and we're like we're gonna go on our anniversary. But I feel like at some point I got to get together with all the people I've had on Gavin Doodle that are in Europe, and if everybody's there, I'll be like, I'll treat everybody to a round somewhere.
Oh man, that would be awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that. Yeah.
So if you're ever around, or there's like I said, the travel thing, one of the places they have is they have stuff in the UK. So if I'm ever over there and I'm near you, I will buy you a treat as a big old thank you for joining me on this evening. But I really do appreciate it. We are huge fans. I can't say it enough. So.
I really appreciate you asking me on, man. It's been really cool.
Okay, lovely. Go have a restful evening, and I will be in touch.
Cheers, man.
All
See
right.
ya.
Bye. All right, folks. I'm going to continue here. We have about an hour left max. I got a good majority of this down, and I'm doing sort of detail work now. So I'm going to keep going. But again, I will flip to, Matthew Berg's, big Bologna Gavin party. Gavin party. That would be pretty fun, actually, if we were to go over there to set up an event where we could be like, everybody, we're going to meet at this bar, and we're going to go live and say hi to everybody. That'd be fun. Anyways, so in the let me just Tommy Doyle. Sorry we missed. I missed that question until just now, but I'll see if I can relay it to Matt. I will let him know. But the question was sort of a shift in approach from lots of hand painted textures and graphic elements. And why did Matt decide to make this change, and was it easy-ish was the question. So I'll see if I can relay that to him. But in the meantime, I'm going to shift back down. So ready? Whoop. There we go. I'm going to keep working on this. I know my wife is probably going to say these eyeballs are too small, but I think they need to be a little small and goofish here. So hopefully she doesn't get too upset at the scale of them. I'm trying to get them so they feel a little suspicious. I want them to feel like they're getting away with something of sorts, and so that's why they're maybe a little tinier bit of pupils on these. And then the rat and the cat are maybe a little more confused by what is happening here as the animals try to escape. I'm going to probably do a little chain and lock on here that the monkey is messing with of some sort. And so I may not make the monkey, I may actually, it'd probably be a good idea right now to just go and cover up those pupils and redirect them once I get the lock in place. But I need to draw on this trash can. There we go. Little trash can, and now, where's that? There's that. Oh, it's this pink right here. There you go, and like make this wall feel more wall-like, sort of rocks and bits and pieces in here. Sort of. Okay, let's see. So if people have questions, I will put it. I think I forgot to put it on the second half, but in fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tilt it up just for a second. So, how dare I make my own choices about my art? I just know half the time I put in those eyes that are small, and you go, I cannot see them. But in this case, I want them to be little tiny, like a little bit more worried. So like this rhino in particular, that shape for those eyes is important to me on this piece. So hopefully I got a good zoom here. I'll check it in just a second, but let me get some color on these guys here. So do people have questions? How can I help? What can I answer? These in here. I'll get some of this purple. Down in here. A little bright spot on that snares. Okay. Thank you, Teacher Marin. I do need to put the lock in here, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it. Maybe it is that yellow, so it bounces around. I'm not a big fan of this yellow up here on the face of the gorilla, and so I might actually repaint that altogether. Like, I feel like it's too jarring of a a bit of yellow. What I might actually do, one of the reasons why I was putting yellow over there is just because of the yellow of the lion's mane there. I'm trying to get that so it has a little bit of a sort of a yellowy vibe to it, but it's not working for me on the gorilla. And so what I might do is actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add it there, and I'll probably get rid of it on the gorilla and make the gorilla maybe a little bit more subdued in its coloring of the face. And so like coming back in and doing like blue or something of the sort, so it disappears a little bit more into the background. So I'll make these fingers, these fingies, this blue instead. Let's see how that holds up. A little better. Not perfect, but a little better. Might actually make it a little bit more of a purpley blue, so it's a little bit more like the elephant across the way. So add a little bit of purple in the mix. So even these guys need to go a little more purple here. That's a little better. This is the same giraffe, in case anybody cared. Same one. Lauren, I don't remember if it was Neil Layton. I'm trying to remember who it was. There was someone mentioned, but I can't remember if it was Neil Layton or not. So. Mine apologies for not remembering. Look at this. Maybe I'll give him a blue tongue here. Because that's funny. Okay, and then maybe I'll give him a little shadow to imply those are sticking back there. Okay, let's get this guy sort of colored up here. My eraser is somewhere around here. There it is. Found it. Okay. Let me draw those in. Okay, kitty cat. Let's work on the kitty cat. I'll put a little shadow behind the kitty cat. A little shadow behind that rat that's there. A little bit of a challenge to the idea of the structure and which way the light is going, so it's kind of weird and funny. I want. Do I have the right tone here? I got this like tone into that just a bit with this. A little bit of a green, a little bit of this gray. Just to knock those back just a touch. And then the Payne's. Is this Payne's gray? Payne's gray. Shadow under the monkey's ear there to imply he's sort of close to that. Old curmudgeon hour is fine. I think trying to draw like a third grader is actually probably better, Lauren. So I feel like we were both talking about that. The curmudgeon hour was just me sort of saying that, and I think the more we can get it so it's the something the guest relates to, the better. But whoa. Okay. We're getting there with all this. We're getting there. taking some time. Let's get in there with some other little nuanced details though. Like the tail on the giraffe. And maybe that lion needs a tail right here. You can have a little see, get that. Try and get that a little darker color here. So it blends in a little bit better there. There's that lion. I think if I can get that tongue of that giraffe maybe a little bit more blue would be good too. Versus sort of gray. Okay. Now, this gorilla needs some work. Let me let that gorilla dry. Hold on. Okay, now that. Let's get these eyes in here. That's better. Way better. Way better. There's his hand right there. Put those ears in. I'll probably, actually, you know what? There we go. Make those ears a little yellow. Process. I'm going to trim away because it keeps pulling up. I'm going to trim away that little slice of tissue paper there. There we go. Okay. What just got sent to this iPad? Nope. Nope, stop it. There we go. Stoats, jumpers, favorite artists, and movie shows. That's about it, Mr. Men. Yeah. It wasn't a ton. I wonder, should I give, like, maybe I'll do this. I'll make it like that. I'll come in here and I'll put keyhole there, rather than doing a chain. And then I'm going to cut out a little tiny key that this monkey can have. A little, like, old-timey key here the monkey can be holding. So if you pay attention enough, you can see that he's got the key that will release them all. I might need to cut this with an X-Acto blade though. It's a little too small for the scissors. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if I cut this deep enough with some of these. That works, I think. Got a little key right there. So they're caught in the act. That's the gist of it. They are caught in the act. Okay, so let me stick this down, and I will brighten it up a little bit once it's stuck down. So like so. Where did I just put that X-Acto blade? There it is. Little notch on it right there. Little bit of paint to make it stand out. But that way they are okay, let's get in here. Let's okay. Let's get in here with, was it this one? This one. Nope. Let's see. Yeah, that'll work. I just want to make sure these lions are clearly lions. Whoa! Let's do that pencil up myself. And then there's a couple of marks there I don't like. Okay. I need a little, that's too dark of a line. That's not the color I thought it was. When I picked it up, I meant to pick up this one. That's for the rhino's butt. Got a little tail right there. and make those nostril holes a little bigger. Okay. And then I need okay, there's that. I want my teeny tiny brush. Oh, I have some right there. That color is maybe a little overpowering. The purple, so I'm gonna shade it down just a touch. Use the old finger dab method. Couple little whiskers there. Okay. I feel like we're getting pretty close, honestly. The only thing I can see that I might want to change is the color that I have up there. I kind of feel like I want it on these ears a little better than what I have right now, so it feels a little more specific. They just feel a little sort of subdued. And so I'm trying to see if I cut some little ears to go on top of these ears. That would help. I think it might. Okay. So we'll stick those down. I tried to do it with colored pencil, but it's just not as pure of an application. So let's try this. I also need to do stars in the sky. I might be able to do the moon too. It really comes down to it. Put the moon to it. That ear to wrap around. It's just not in the way. There we go. What did I cut the trash cans out of? I want to do a moon up here. And then like little. They're escaping at night. Kind of vibe to it. Get beautiful. Okay. Let me stick the moon down. And then I think I just need to do stars and I might be done. Okay. And I can put a few more of these in here. The grass. Break up over that edge. Okay, stars. Continue to add stars. Okay, we're getting close, everybody. I don't know if I like the stars. I feel like it almost worked better when I didn't have them, or they were maybe I just need to make them out. Like, there we go. Maybe that's the way to do it. Sort of tone them down, do them in the bit that I like, knock them back a stage so they're not quite as bright. I just like the idea of the gate being a little bit more like punchy there. That probably does the trick. Yeah, that's pretty good. Do a couple little bits over there. There, maybe. Right there, and then just come back in and soften. Okay. How are we looking? Are there other things I want to touch with color pencil or paint? I might actually tone down that yellow. Touch. He's just a touch too bright for my liking. Same thing with the ears. Those legs. There. Just tone them down. That's probably a little better. Okay. Doing a little cheeks for weeks here on any of them. Okay. Okay, that may be it. That may be it, everybody. We'll wrap up a few minutes shy. Let's see what we got. I need to post a lot of episodes this week. I know that. This weekend, rather. I wonder if I need one other, like, finger in there. That's the thumb. Probably makes sense. Let me, I'm just waiting for that to dry so I can finish the last little bit. In the meantime, I can put all these colors back. The only color that I don't need back there is this one, if I remember correctly. Everything else, I think, goes back down in there. so I can finish up that book that I'm working on. That's Payne's Gray. I don't want Payne's Gray. I want the black pencil, which is this guy. And you sharpen it. And dry that one little thumb. Little variation on that. Just realized I want 2 other little tweaks. Minor tweaks though. I want this one. Do a little touch. Over there. And then this guy needs some color. Just slightly behind that ear just to set them back. A touch. Seems to be coming up. Take that back down. Draw a dramatic shadow. Same thing over here. And then I think I'm done. Let me clean up some of this mess. Okay. Things that are salvageable over to the side. Things that are not in the trash. Get these colors out of the way. Get this color out of the way. Get those colors out of the way. Get my skizzers out of the way. My eraser out of the way. All these scraps out of the way. That goes there. Let me these up. I'll go grab my black board so I can put it down on something. That's nice and clean. And then we'll be done. Okay. So while I set this up here, I'm going to real quick go to the app that I have on here. There it is. And give me 1 second. Tomorrow I'm going to work on the ads for the next month. I'm trying to find, I don't have it written down for who the people in the next month are. And so I'm trying to find the names. Give me 1 second. That's July. That's August. There it is. Oh, I just lost it. Hold on. Oh, stop moving around. It's changing on me every time. Here we go. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, next week, on the 4th, we have on a friend, former teacher at the school that I teach at, now teaches down south. I think landed a full-time job recently. Lauren Lowen. I knew them as Lauren Minko, but Lauren Lowen. That will be on September 4th. That one's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern, just to give you a heads up. So be ready for that one. Teacher Marin, yes, I love the rhino. I like the monkey. I like the tiger, the first tiger. This one who looks stunned. So this one, and this one are my faves. I do like the cat still, but anyways, so next week at 11 with Lauren Minko here on Gavin Doodle. Otherwise, I want everybody to go have a lovely, lovely weekend. Can I pinch this out a little bit? I guess I can't. I gotta zoom out this way. There we go. I'm just trying to get it all on there for people to see. So that's it. I hope everybody had a good time. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.